Yeah, he's a very heavily played operator in Europe. And let's take a look at the bans for this match. Now, Mockit's going to ban first. Millenium will ban second. We'll see what 3 maps we get down to. Consulate Chalet Skyscraper, Oregon Clubhouse Coastline. The bans. So that's Bank, Border, and Kafe.
That's an interesting set of matches for us to play on. Kafe is a map that we have seen Mockit do well on. They will get first pick. Are they going to opt for Kafe? Are we going to see Bank go off? There it is. And Mockit will start on attack. For Kafe, it will be map number 2 with Millenium starting on defense. And you give probably the fairest of the 3 maps as your decider. Border is a very equal match, same with Oregon.
I mean, with Bank, we're talking about a very open, lots of options, lots of opportunities type of map that's going to leave the team that's more assertive probably in the driving seat. Also, of course, it has something to do with just being familiar with the map. But with Kafe, it's the exact opposite. A very constricting map with options aplenty, but you have to really look and invest time into that particular map to find those options. They're not amazingly apparent. Now, Border is a bit of a mix of both, where both teams will probably be very adept. And I think if we do get to that 3rd map, it'll likely go all the way.
Yeah, Border and Oregon are maps that are in almost every single team's map pool. So it's one of those maps that you can kind of keep in your back pocket, and if need be, say, all right, well, it's a 3rd map, we're comfortable on this, we can go there. We always poll you before the matches to see what you think, and sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong. In this case, just as lopsided as Latin America was yesterday with FaZe versus BRK, Millenium commanding lead of 84 to 16% over Mockit. And given the pedigree that Millenium has, how successful they've been, how well known they are, and how well they performed over the last couple seasons, probably gave them more than a bit of an edge.
Yeah, I'm not terribly surprised by that outcome right there. I mean, we did, of course, also see Mockit recently make that orgs change, so a little bit of a shift there. And in recent times, their success hasn't been as, I think, notable as it has been in the past. But yeah, a very one-sided community vote, that's for sure. And I think the match itself will be a little bit less one-sided.
I don't think we're going to see that stark of a contrast between these 2 teams. But as well, if you want to connect with us, though, outside of this stream, you're more than welcome to do so on either Facebook or Twitter. Just below, you can see the URL for Facebook or the @ for Twitter. It's important to follow both of those. A variety of announcements are made on both of these sites, and as well, we do the community vote and the MVP voting, which has been taking place at the conclusion of matches over the last couple weeks as well. And giving recognition where recognition is due, it's nice for us to be able to say that, yes, so-and-so was, the MVP of this series, and let not just their peers, but also the viewers decide on that. So give both of those a follow if you so choose.
Yeah, and I think players have always been able to highlight their own skill by their own means and through the Pro League, and we capture what we can, but there's so much more that goes on that isn't always easy to access in terms of information with each individual player, and that MVP vote can actually sometimes allow you to see, without actually watching the match, who it was that managed to get the MVP.
Right. There are big plays that happen. We do every single week. We do a top 5 plays of the week at the conclusion of our European matchup, usually in time for Monday's Pro League, just so that we have something for you to see and give even greater commendation. So it's nice to have that opportunity to do it. And I mean, we moved away from a straw poll just to doing straight Twitter polls, so it's very easy for people to vote. You don't even need to click on anything outside of just the name of one of the players. So as well, we always advertise the Go-Fors, so we're heading into the final stretch for Challenger League as well. But here's your Go-For down below. Let's get that out of the way before we hop over to Challenger League, esl.gg/Go4R6. If you are curious, what is a Go-For? It is a weekly tournament that is held for anybody to compete in, providing that they are over the age of 18 and they are in one of the regions that are supported, of course, on PC, Xbox, and PS4.
Right, and it's something that I think is just to get your foot in the door with competition. It doesn't get you anywhere in terms of Challenger League, Pro League, or any of that, but it can get you on the map in terms of player radar, just trying to make yourself known in the scene. That's where you would start.
And let's also move to Challenger League, because there's a lot of there's a lot of viewers who watch Pro League and don't really see Challenger League or anything like that. Challenger League also occurs throughout the week. It's the league that's right under Pro League. We often talk about relegations. Well, the bottom 2 teams in every single region have to compete to save their spot in Pro League against the top 1 and 2 team in Challenger League, or teams in Challenger League in their region. A good example right now could be that the team that was formerly known as Snook and Nose, that is now known as I Don't Know, is actually down in EU Challenger League trying to work their way back up. So casted in a variety of different languages. You can usually find them at a variety of times. You can head over to, I believe it's the ESL website for Rainbow Six, and you can find in the 3 regions, EU, Latin America, and NA, when exactly those matches go live. I know, for example, North America is playing tonight. I think it's 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern. 2 a.m. Central European Standard Time, so I think
somewhere in that region.
But we're closing in on the finals of that. So right now we're in the finals, and the next week we should see the 2 teams that are going to be coming out of every single region. So very exciting.
And then as well, after the actual regular season ends for, or even after the playoff ends for the Pro League, we will then have the relegations, and we'll figure out exactly who is going to be moving up into Challenger, or moving up into Pro League, or retaining their spot in Challenger League, or if it's going to be some moves of the Pro League teams going down. You know, what exactly is going to happen, we'll find out after the season ends.
There will be a shakeup, and we don't need to say it more than we already have, but this is probably the most important season for relegations ever, because we are staring down the barrel of a 6-month Pro League season starting at the conclusion of Season 7. That's the season that we're in. So Season 8, if you are not in the top 8 of Pro League, well, then you're on the sidelines for at least half a year, and that's worrisome. But we're going to throw to our top 5 plays of the week, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Enjoy the things that we saw over week number 5.
Laxing will get one more, but the diffuser's on the floor. The diffuser will get picked up by Vandal. Gets the kill. Now 1v1. As a Jackal has to plant all in the open. He needs to go through with this. Shotgun coming in, and Vandal will clean up the round.
They didn't want to even do all 6. They just wanted 3.
Oh my god, what is that? The one-tap beauty here from Rips.
Oh,
spray into the side.
Down. What?
Get the second kill.
Wow.
Well done here.
And unfortunately, Hungry's down, which means they can't just flash into bathroom the same way, but they still have flash bangs.
Oh, here we go. Rips yet again. That's a 3K for him. It does waste so much time for the attacker.
Already a minute and a half.
It almost worked out for DC, and unfortunately here for Crips. So many angles for him to watch for. It doesn't have the
roaming.
There goes the line. 2 kills coming in. Secretly will land 1 as Rips almost taking him out. And secretly though, finding 1 will get taken out by Rips here again on the Legion. 2 players left alive, and they haven't even pushed downstairs. They have to rush the Ying in. Rips comes in and rips his head off. That's Diffuser on the floor, stuck on last man alive.
We'll give you the Diffuser because then we know where you want to go after that. I like at least using that angle. But that, of course, gonna give some sound away.
Here we go. Rips coming in.
Pojo Man gonna situate himself likely on that mirror window as soon as possible to give his team a good amount of control. Flush has rotated very wisely over to Bunker, a great position here. Jarvis has been down. It's a 1 versus 1, and Slashhawk wins it! What is happening? And again, still a defender in the site, and that's gonna be Uno who gets Bibu. And as Spark gets pushed on, he is very wisely not getting the initial frag. Gets a triple kill! Wilkie now in a 1 versus 1. He might have the yokai still, but it's a post-plant situation. Now he's very likely going to be hit by the yokai, which Wilkie seems to be using right now, and he has indeed been hit by that very drone. But he's choosing to move over to blue stairs, playing the long game, expecting the push from Wilkie, and here it comes. Wilkie checks the wrong angle, and he goes back in for the diffuser. There's no time! Spark clutches it out in a 1 versus 4!
You saw it right there on your screen, proleague.com/R6 for more information. I haven't been able to figure out what that background song is, but I've always wanted to know, and I don't think it's in. I don't think it's in the videos because I've looked. I tried to Shazam it,
I don't know what it is.
Shazam it.
I have no idea.
I couldn't Shazam it.
Shazam didn't have it?
It didn't work.
Surprising.
Couldn't Shazam it.
We're still waiting on some players and some issues, but we'll get past them, sure, in time. And we'll get into the match as soon as we possibly can. For those of you who weren't here for the band phase, of course, it's Bank, Cafe, Border as our 3. So we talked about how those maps are going to play out. And they're very different to each other. You know, Bank, open, Cafe, closed, Border, a mix of both.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the way that Bank plays out because both of these teams are known for being quite aggressive, especially Mockit. There's lots of hot hands and lots of good shots on both teams. They can go heavy roam. They can frag out quite easily and play very loose with the site and only have like 1 or 2 anchors on depending on the map. And Bank is one of the biggest maps in all of Pro League, and it absolutely allows for teams to roam very effectively on it. It's something that we look at in Latin America, Bank being one of the highest pick rates. They love to roam on it, and they love to take fights, and that makes for an exciting matchup all the time. Is Mockit Millenium likely going to be able to do the same thing?
Well, yeah, I think Mockit Millenium are very different to some other teams that we see out of the French region, like, for example, Vitality, who tends to play a lot slower. But in this match, we're probably going to see a pretty fast-paced one. It's only likely that we'll see a shift if Mockit, for example, choose to try and tone that down a little bit because of Rise being on the opponent's side now. Maybe they want to mix things up and change their dynamic. That's entirely possible, but very likely to be a very fast-paced and intense match when we get into it.
One of the things for Mockit that I've noticed, not just in Gamers Assembly, but also over the course of the last couple games they've played here in Pro League, is that they rely quite heavily on Sneaky and Panics to carry that team in terms of killing potential. And that is a potential issue. We know that Millenium is a team with a lot of depth to it. We know that with Millenium, you can see any of those 5 players, you know, rise up, if I can employ that pun, and do well by the rest of the team if one of them isn't as successful. But we'll see if any of that actually comes to fruition as we head into Bank. It's going to be map number 1 between the 2 Frenchmen of Mockit and Millenium. And it's Millenium. He'll be starting on defense and a little outside of the ordinary. It appears that staff room and open area is where they're going to go.
So Staff Room Open Area is a totally viable bomb site. It's not often seen, but there are some excellent strategies that can be employed to make it formidable and difficult for the team of Mockit, in this case, to handle. It's really going to come down to how they address the site. I think strategically, this is a nice move by the defense.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
So they're going to open up the wall in open area, and this is one of the strategies that we see involving open areas. You just basically open everything up and expand that bomb site out of the actual site itself. And a lot of teams won't even put a lot of bodies into A or B. They'll play from above at one of the hatches, or they'll play in tellers or archives, the way that you would see them hold that site in particular.
So there are in general 2 different ways to hold open area. The first way is to anchor inside of the kitchen and put your mirror windows facing towards open area, and then focus on holding archives and tellers. Now, if you do that, what happens is you are not roaming the top floor, you're roaming very horizontally, and you can just maintain that control. But Millenium has chosen to do the opposite. What they're going to do is try to hold above so that they can keep their players inside of open area to hold cafeteria. So a bit of the opposite from the strategy I just mentioned, but I get just another way you can interpret open area, and one of the things that makes it such an interesting bomb site. The operator selection here for Millenium is quite interesting. I really like the fact that they've brought the castle to try and aid their holds. Now, they're not going to be reinforcing very much of CEO, and since this is a top floor heavy defense, that will actually cost them, I think, a lot, depending on how Mockit choose to address this. Well, so far, it's gone pretty slow. The mirror windows are in a good position to stall out Mockit when they eventually go for their push. You can see Panic's going to try and open up that mirror window inside of Meeting Hall. And he will, it looks like, get that successfully. No bandit here on Millenium, and the Mew Jammer not on the mirror window. So the detonation has been heard, and now access in full control for Mockit in terms of Meeting, which is going to force the rest of the Millenium players playing on the top floor to fall back a little bit. You can see that it's becoming a heavier anchor for Millenium in this round. Now Mockit still trying to come from the southeast primarily, as that is their main focus. They will be moving their way finally to CEO, at least CEO walls, with half of the round already transpired. Panic's looking to see what his teammates are seeing on the drone. Sprays through the wall after it has been opened up. Mockit trying to get control of that CEO still. No engagement so far. And there's the first. Enemy gets Rise and goes for a second inside of the main lobby. But from the side of his holographic sight, Liven pops out and manages to finish off Enemy, trading it out nice and even. So that's the Jackal gone. A lot of roam clear potential just lost for Mockit, but they have gotten the top floor, and that's the most important thing. Once they have that top floor control, this strategy being employed by Millenium is going to enter into a phase that's just not easy to hold, especially with just enough time to execute. As the E1Ds and lifelines pop out, it's going to be a spray from Sneaky to get Liven. What a frag from him. And now, control over that elevator hallway.
And they've pushed in and managed to pinch one just playing off-site. Mockit will have to have a very brisk pace in the final 30 seconds in order to take the site, and the smoke will go off. So this is prime opportunity for Hicks to be able to stop them from being able to get in through that main door. They can see the A-bomb site. Renshiro peeks through the open mirror, and it's Voy there to catch him as Sneaky, oh no, gets panics as he wanders in front, but a second kill in a row from the Zofia. Plant going down, but Yogurts doesn't see him. Revan cuts him off, and Mockit somehow manages to grab that round in a frantic last-second push and hold on. And that'll be the attackers taking round number 1.
So a lot of things went awry there for the defense. The main thing to point out is, of course, the failed hold of the top floor. And because that top floor wasn't held successfully, or even it didn't really delay the attack for very long, once the fallback happened for the defense, once they got back to the default positions, they had lost so much control that it was easy for the attack to get the dominance. And they got the frag advantage. They managed to win that round because of it.
One thing that has made a small resurgence that I've noticed over the last couple weeks is probably the least utilized gadget in the entire game, the deployable shield. We saw it in great abundance yesterday, and take a look, there's yet another. Now, holding this mirror is integral for the way that Bank plays out. Basically every single push on Bank is going to play the same on CCTV. You're going to try to contest that one wall that you see is shot open, just to the left of the doorway, and then you would likely have a smoke or maybe a Mira, usually a Mira playing that one Mira inside of the hallway leading into Gold or into Vault. That deployable shield is going to ensure that nobody can push you from the garage. Now, some teams will put a Mira on that one garage panel to ensure that you have control of garage, but you're susceptible to being rushed from the stairs, main lobby stairs. Instead, they're going to just use a deployable shield. Instead of having a Mira play there, it will be a smoke, or maybe not, as it does actually look like Voy is going to rotate out and abandon his post.
Yeah, no matter what, as you say, these defenses and attacks on the bottom floor tend to play out the same way every time. There's always some little intricacy that each team will bring, some little variation, and it's interesting to try and find and point them out, but ultimately, it's the same every time. Now, Millenium taking control over this top floor, and they do have the Jackal. They also have the Lion to help them in this endeavor, and they're going to see the footprints of one of those defenders, giving them information on Panix playing at the top of server stairs. Now, Panix is playing probably the perfect operator to hold these server stairs. Ella, maybe not as good as she used to be, but this engagement distance is not going to hurt her at all. Now, Enemy gets the first kill. Renshiro goes down, and that's Keller's control, but Enemy rushing into Rise, and he will lose his life. A little bit of a misplay there to take the kill and give one away right after.
Millenium had doubled up as Liven was there in addition to Renshiro. And the thing for Ella is not necessarily that she's worse off, just that her focus has shifted. So instead of her being a monster who can do literally everything on all parts of the map with zero downside, she's now in a situation where you need to be able to, be smart in taking those close range engagements. Speaking of close range engagements, it's Revan punishing Rise. That was the Thermite. who'd gotten a kill, or rather had gotten the push
Bomb
earlier
located
on
by attackers.
in through Tellers and Archives. And you got to think, losing a Thermite not dire when you still have a Hibana on the board. One of the hatches blown, that's in Skylight Stairwell, which Liven stands over top of, and Hicks inside of open area. So they'll survey those hatches. The destructibility loss in Thermite will only maybe be a factor because Hicks has 0 of those X-Karos left.
You can see that the line of Yogurts is looking towards Garage and calling out information on Sneaky, who's playing the armored truck. He's trying to get into Garage, matter of fact, and Liven's going to try and come from behind, but the barricade is going to prompt Sneaky to this push. E1D is live, but Liven wins that fight somehow, and Sneaky goes down. That's Garage control in favor of Millenium and an even man count now. Now, what seemed like a Mockit win could actually go away as it continues to be Millenium frags. Revan and Panics go down, and it's just Void, a 1 versus 3. Full control is lost, 5 seconds. Voids will get Ryogurts as the E1D pops off. He has to stand still, and that's gonna allow Liven to plant the diffuser. Perfect timing here from Millenium, and Hicks will get the final kill. What an odd round, and the exact pinpoint precision timing from Millenium allowing them to win that. If it weren't for the E1D popping off right before Lion died too, it could have been completely different.
I really wish we had seen the perspective of that Jackal as well, because it certainly looked like Liven had no idea that the Echo was being played in that position, and just got a very quick flick onto the head of Sneaky, not really allowing him to have much opportunity to return fire. So all in all, Millenium were able to encircle the site and push with great effectiveness very quickly and establish a lot of presence on the stairwell. And that's something you don't see on this site. I mean, it was just earlier on that I was saying this site is played out in such a way that you're usually going to try to get the plant off at the main doorway. That's where you're going to contest from. But losing the Thermite on made Millenium have to do a course correction, and that correction ended up being very successful.
Punching into Garage is a difficult thing to accomplish because inherently when you do it, you expose yourself to any defender playing in close proximity to the bottom of those stairs at the main staircase. And it just so happened that Mockit didn't have anyone in that position. Plus the barricades on the doorways allowed the attackers to isolate themselves and only engage it with one angle at a time. So very well read from Millenium. And we'll see if Mockit can give us something similar as they go onto their basement attack. This is the first time Millenium has defended the basement as they tried to go to that open area. First round, did not see success. So this could be Millenium putting it 2-1 because of the expectation of that defense win. They have all the utility they need. They have the C4, 3 at least from Pulse, Mira, and Valkyrie. They have an Echo drone, Yokai, and the gas grenade. So that's every single one of the defenders with a piece of utility to stop a server push.
They'll track the pulse of Liven, whose name is not Liven, but don't be fooled at all. It is indeed the captain of Millenium. He's playing downstairs in gold. That's going to be your area where Pulse is likely going to live because it gives you a lot of strength with that cardiac sensor. It allows you to see any push through the doorway. It gives you a wide angle or a wide, I guess, swath of information on servers as well. So you can see not live in there playing inside of gold or gold vault or however teams would like to call it out. So you've got first EE1D being used by Mockit as they push down the stairs. Rise will give his position away, but just in case there isn't a crossfire established, Revan won't push the Valkyrie. A smart move, and could have potentially ended up wasting Lion's next 2 gadgets. And of course, we see how integral those EE1Ds can be. A pre-fire, pretty common spot playing under that desk, but there's nobody there whatsoever. And now enemy's push will take him towards White Stairs.
Better safe than sorry.
Yes.
Now this drop down has been reinforced above the server, which is kind of an oddity. Usually you'll see the defense open that. Seems like they weren't even trying to hold server, but Thermite Charge will dispatch the drop down, so not going to be a worry for Mockit. However, there's potential for Millenium to start a late flank above server now that is opened up. Interesting that Mockit chose to do that, but it is what it is. And you can see they're trying to do a bit of a pincer here from the main stairs and server stack. So a more common attack coming from Mockit since they have, oh no, that is huge. Sneaky gets the Yokai drone. Yogurt's a little bit of a misposition there and bad timing, but he's still got the angle and he's trying to utilize it. E1D pops off and that's gonna force him off the angle. Lifelines are trying to cover this attempted plant. Void just looking to bait out for some C4. He hasn't gotten one yet, and there are 3 to get. You can see Revan's on the main stairs, and Yogurt peeks him and gets the kill. That's not supposed to happen. Panics will get Yogurts in response, and he's at the back of the elevator hallway. It's a great position for an attacker. Rise gets a C4, and enemy responds onto Hicks. It's just an outright slaughter here, and a bloodbath between the teams. Neither seeming to come out on top, but the defense now, with very little time, have to stop the defuse plant, but they can't. Rise will get Panics, but it's a 2-on-2 post-plant. Mockit have good control here, and Liven and Rise are hard-pressed to get this retake. Now, the thing is, they have that drop-down. There is one attacker at the top of server stairs, the other at the bottom of server stairs. It's up to Rise to be able to win this fight. Liven looking to call out information, and he gets exposed and finished off because of that heartbeat detector. Now it's all up to Rise. He's not going to expect one of the top server stairs, seemingly, and he gets peeked on. Here's the bullets, now peeks himself. Sneaky, though, dropping down and getting that frag. Mockit will get their attack onto the basement.
Not really much of a chance there for a successful retake. My suspicion was that Liven saw that gun barrel protruding from Jackal past the doorway onto server stairs, yet still pulled out his cardiac sensor, probably trying to find, I would imagine, the second member of Mockit. But in a scenario like that, Pulse has the speed and the advantage. Yeah, the UMP might not be the strongest gun in a straight firefight, especially not against the C7 that Jackal uses, but you could have conceivably still, you know, quickly peeked that and tried to take the Jackal out and then use the gadget to try and find where Sneaky was situated at the top of those server stairs. But with that, Mockit takes the attacking round, and that's now 3 attack rounds in a row. Mockit heads towards the main floor, Teller's Archives, and we'll see if they're any more successful on defense than any team has been so far, because we're still looking for the first defensive victory.
I have to give massive props for that attack to Mockit. The way that they picked apart the defense from Millenium. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Every single operator on the defense from Millenium was geared to stopping a server push and a server plant. And yet we only saw 1 C4 used. We didn't see the Yokai used at all because it was destroyed early on. And the gas grenades, I don't even think we saw a single one. I didn't notice, but could be wrong. It doesn't matter. The underutilization of the utility from Millenium ultimately cost them. But it wasn't because Millenium was negligent. It was because Mockit was picking apart that hold so well. You know, Mockit really just threw their bodies into the fray and managed to win the fights. And sometimes, as weird as that sounds, that's exactly what you need to do, and it's exactly what Mockit did. That got them that round. Oh, what is that? Is that a shotgun on the Jaeger?
That is
from Void?
Peculiar if that's the case. But, I mean, it does seem to be that destruction is a very important aspect of this setup. I mean, you've got a mirror and a castle strat being used. It's not really outside of the ordinary to possibly see that, but anywho. We'll see Millenium right now just hunting their way through the main lobby, trying to find anybody inside of sight. The way that this defense usually sets up is you have a lot of bodies up top that can waste time and then manage to find their way back down to the site when need be. Now, the biggest issue with this is that if they ignore the roamers, then the problem is that you lose complete control of sight very quickly. That is indeed the M870 of Voice. So a Jaeger with a shotgun is definitely not within the meta at this point. Yogurts goes in and entries by himself. That is a lot of usage, or a lot of potential waste for a Lion to do that, and gets picked off by Panics.
I mean, he's just lucky that wasn't a cab. Liven in the main lobby trying to contest that hole above the reinforced panels facing west. Very common angle to be used by the defense, but will yield no result here.
C4 is playing an angle inside of Tellers with that M870 to try and maximize the amount of damage and pain that he can bring onto that team, as that doorway by the beepers tends to be one of the main entry points as the end of the round approaches.
Yeah. So, Millenium now. Control over lobby, control seemingly trying to be established on the top floor, but they have to contest Sneaky, and he is in a really good spot to deny them this push. Playing over by the couch, he's going to get lit up through the wall and the couch alike. Neither, of course, being bulletproof, but peeks wide and gets Liven going for a second. He is just stalling the timeout. Only 30 seconds left for Millenium, and they now are struggling to get control. Finally, they will get a kill here, and Sneaky goes down, but still, so little time.
And he took about 25 seconds off the clock as the Castle wasted time, not just with his barricades, but also with his usage of that UMP and just simply persevering. Now, no real opportunity for Millenium to be able to entry into the site. They will use an exothermic charge, and Revan wisely peels off, but boy will have no chance. That M870 will be out-dueled. Revan comes in with 2, but no, it's Millenium sticking the landing. They can't get the plant off, and Mockit will just hang on and give the defenders their first victory and push Mockit to a 3-1 lead as chaos ensues in the final 5 seconds of that round.
A huge win there for Mockit, and a lot of it comes down to some serious misplays from Millenium. Putting the Lion downstairs by himself, engaging with Rook in a 1 versus 1, questionable. More importantly, though, so much time spent clearing the main lobby on attack, and that is possibly one of the easiest zones to clear on Bank because there is no flank for the main lobby. You drone out the common spots in the main lobby, you make sure no one's playing on the top floor immediately so that they can't rush out and kill you from above, and you're golden to walk in through that front door and you have control. But it took them 2 minutes, 10 seconds to do it. And sometimes you could make an argument for maybe a minute 30, but too much time there was spent on that main lobby push. Then eventually, once they went to the top floor, they didn't even see a positive result, losing men to Sneaky. The Casa was playing upstairs, and once they had the control, they didn't have enough time to use it.
They had 3 bodies stacked up at the top of the stairs, trying to find the Castle, and all 3 of them essentially searching for the same angle. Now, would have been beneficial if there were, you know, maybe a gadget on an attack operator who freezes you in place for a couple seconds, say, or maybe
I know,
but once
weird.
again, having Lion entry that way, not expecting a roaming Rook, sure, but still very peculiar usage of that, and you got to commend Sneaky for the way he played that. Just, he almost is the sole reason why Millenium ran out of time when they did push the site.
A lot of it comes down to him, so good job to Sneaky, that's for sure. So now it is going to be the turn of Mockit to attack, and if they manage to win this attack, which seems to be the overarching trend for the map, then we will be on match point.
Jackal being played on Bankle
On Bank, he will, what were you trying to say, Parker?
a Jackal being, my thought is done. I was gonna
What
say
were you saying?
A Jackal being played on Bank so far has not proven to be successful based on that gadget. So,
I mean,
of course, on maps such as Bankle, Jackal
On
Bankle, Jackal has a lot of usage because it's a big map. We will see Jackal used more often than we won't, and so far in this round, or in this game.
I mean, he's a really good wombo combo as you would call it, I guess, in Siege, where he pairs well with Lion, and you make him stand still and you detect them at the same time with Jackal, and then it's just easy free kill. But you're right, he actually hasn't really seen any significant use so far. I mean, we've seen some people detected, but we haven't seen the Jackal actually be relevant, because oftentimes we're seeing these defenders falling off on their own before they can be influenced by Jackal, or on rounds they don't fall off, there is no Jackal to be seen. So it's kind of a interesting dance that's happening with both teams and the use of that operator.
And I've noticed that a lot of the teams are using Jackal just simply as their main entry. Now, Ashe has not really been seeing a lot of plays so far this matchup. It's mostly been relying on that Jackal-Zofia combo, especially with Sneaky using that Zofia. The dance will begin on the A side as the one wall blows inside of CCTV. Here's what's going to happen. Your Thermite's going to go in, back facing the bomb. They're going to get siphoned off by the smoke. They're going to try to potentially get a C4, but there's an E1D that would pause the defenders' moves.
Now, it takes 2 to tango, but both of these teams are going to break that rule entirely, having all 5 alive on both sides with only 30 seconds left. Now, they need to use what time is left here, and Mockit's going to get the very first kill. Yagers goes down, and it looks like garage control in favor of the attack. That could be huge in this final push. E1D pops off, enemy going for a push onto the mirror window just to make sure there's no defenders playing that spot. Renshiro will get him. Ravon does manage to refrag onto Hicks, but still ball control for defense. The final defender, though, in a 1 versus 3 with so little time is Renshiro, who has his C4 in hand, not trying to use it to deny the push because he can't, but what a shot! Through the bars, Panics goes down, now a 1-on-2. He doesn't have his mirror window any longer, and he's gonna have to push his way over to server. There's in fact an attacker all the way over in electrical, trying to play this as safe as possible, not letting Renshiro have any opportunity to clutch it out. He's going to peek wide over towards the tunnel. He has no way to know that there is an attacker in that tunnel, but he checks it anyway with the C4, and he gets the kill! Sneaky now in a 1 versus 1, or Void rather, in a 1 versus 1 as Sneaky goes down. At the top of the server stairs is going to be the Thermite, and there's no time for Renshiro, but he gets the kill anyway! It's too bad he can't get the disable, and the attackers will win the round. Void reading that properly. Renshiro, what a nice try.
Pretty tough being in a situation when you are a Mira with that Vector. Not exactly a gun that excels at long-range fights, number one. Number two, certainly doesn't excel at taking multiple enemies at once, largely due to the fact that it can have a low DPS for the size of the magazine and having to reload if you get pushed at, you know, 2 separate times. It's not, or at 2 operators at the same time, not easy for that Vector to be able to do that. So what an effort from Renshiro, who manages to almost save the day, but not quite enough to stave off his team going to match point. So Mockit will look to get their 2nd defensive victory in a row. They'll go downstairs to CCTV. As I know this is Mockit's map, but the community thought that this was going to be an 84 to 16% victory for Millenium, and I mean, those 16%ers, they're looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat surprising to a lot of people, I'm sure, that Mockit now are in, well, they're match point. They're a step away from winning this, winning here on Bank. And as you say, it's their map. Kafe, the 2nd map, when we get to it, could be just map preference here for Mockit. But overall, they are playing a fantastic match, and you have to give them massive props. Millenium, on the other hand, a couple mistakes made in that round. Of course, yet again, the utility to use on the counter plant just not fully utilized, and because of that, defense struggling to stave off the defuse plant.
Now, I think a big part of why Renshiro wasn't able to use that C4,
he was locked out.
He was completely locked out. You had the Hibana coming in through the garage that was establishing presence, so the mirror couldn't rotate where need be or else get pressure from Panics. And then, of course, you had, I believe it was Sneaky, who was also watching from inside of server to ensure that when that plant did go down, there was at least a guardian angel there for Mockit. So no real opportunity for Renshiro to be able to make that push, and how frustrating that is when you know that you have the utility, or the gadget rather, that can successfully halt Mockit's push and not being able to use it. First E1D will come at roughly 50 seconds into round number 6, and while it might seem pretty early on, we are indeed looking at match point. Mockit has started with quite a performance right now, and Millenium will need to somehow find that gas pedal or else they'll be left behind. Enemy playing inside of staff area. You can see that even though they're defending downstairs in CCTV, that there are a lot of bodies being played right now off-site trying to hold off this push, and enemy will, for the 2nd round, get a leadoff kill onto Hicks. He'll rotate, and there's just no chance as Liven is above to finish off enemy, and they will essentially trade off. And now Renshiro bulldozes in, and that is Sneaky gone. So Millenium will hold the numbers advantage.
Very interesting round from Mockit. That's the first time I think we've seen them roam so heavily. Now, we did see the Hibana dispatch, so a 2-for-1 straight trade in this instance actually might be pretty worth it, as Rise the only hard destruction left on Millenium's side. They're only going to be able to open up 2 drop-downs, which means their attack strategy is very clear. They have no other option but to utilize those drop-downs, and all Mockit must do is hold that push. Now, they have Panics over by server, and he's going to continue to try and deny that push on the far northeast side of the building, but it's unlikely that Millenium will invest there as they move their way over the garage and set themselves up on those drop-downs.
Yeah, you don't have any exothermic charges to actually hit the site itself. Thermite becomes the Hibana, and gotta realize at this point that they're essentially going to have to win a couple 1v1s or just out-frag Mockit at this point, because the defenders can rest pretty comfortably knowing that this push is is largely defanged. A couple, marks from the Valk Cam will spot members of Millenium, but right now it's Millenium with firm control. Panics will drop, trying to stall this defuse. As once again being marked, but those metal bars will giveth and taketh away. It's all up to Voy left, who will have to stop the defuse plant. It is going down successfully. He'll peek wide, and it's Liven with the secondary shotgun, the ITA from Jackal, to keep his team in this fight. And even though the utility strongly favoring Mockit when the man count didn't, Millenium played that very well and just simply rushed the site, took a couple fights, won them, and then were able to take B site and get the plant down.
Yeah, a lot of that comes down to Mockit just seemingly not trying to hold the drop down over by Vault entrance. Now, there were a lot of Candelos and smokes that were being lobbed out to try and counter that attempted denial from the defense, but all the same, Mockit completely fell off that hole. They didn't even try to deny that push. So then they had to go for a retake, and when you're doing retakes, it's such a man disadvantage, it's not viable. It's extremely difficult to pull off, and didn't happen for Mockit. So now we're going to see Millenium go back to the defense of the open area cafeteria, which they have not been successful in doing, but they have tried once before.
Big issue for them last time was they lost control from above early enough on that Mockit could establish their positions and make it so that Millenium couldn't rotate successfully. Then it was just very simple. You go in through the main door into open area and you get a plan off, and at that point, Millenium is knocked so far back on their heels they can't find their footing, and Mockit just use that momentum to win the rest of the round. So the question for me is going to be, even though we see Millenium running with a very similar strategy where they open up the wall inside of Skylight, they open up inside of Office, they open up
I think the operative word is open.
Open area, open site. Will they be able to make small enough changes to stop Mockit this time, or else we'll head to Kafe with Mockit up 2-0.
No, they're going to have to do that, yeah. I mean, defending the top floor is, as you say, pretty much the end-all be-all here for Millenium. And Mockit seem to be addressing this site differently than they have in the past, at least somewhat. They're going to have their line going in downstairs by himself. We've seen that mistake made before, but as long as he doesn't confront a defender, it should be fine. Meanwhile, the rest of the team now pushing their way into Tellers, and Yogurt seems to be aware of this at this point. Lifelines are coming out to try and disorient the Legion, who's playing in the archives right now, and they will. E1D forces him to stand still, and all these open holes, he's detected now. He's got to be a dead man, but no, he manages to sneak away with his life, which has happened. He should be dead, but he's in the site now, safe and sound.
They will begin to push through Tellers into Archives, but one goo mine will stop Panics from being able to take that lane away from the defenders. Now, Mockit going with a very heavy first floor push at the moment. You've got Revan, who's solo entering as a Lion from below. This is something that we had seen Yogurts do when he was doing this line. He actually lost that fight, but it does appear that for the moment, Revan in a far safer spot. One smoke will go off inside of that office, and Hicks is watching it. That was a remote gas grenade that was tossed from the smoke to prevent a push. That is a good waste of Jackal's smoke grenade. Now, of course, easy when you see the attackers toss a smoke canister to be able to use your remote gas grenade to choke them out.
Yeah, it's a counter utility, and the expectation is there for a push when the attackers lay down their smokes. But they've reserved one smoke on the Jackal of enemy, and they will be able to use it where their actual push comes out. E1D's popping off here. It's been a very fast round so far, and Mockit are using all of the time that has been given to them. You can see Ravon coming up from behind on the other end of the expected push. An enemy taking control over that top floor, at least attempting to do so. And CEO, he will get Liven. Panics has been down, but he will be picked up. Still plenty of time here for the attack. Cafeteria has been dealt with, but there's no defenders inside of it. Rise will get Voy, and it's an even man count here as another E1D pops off with only 20 seconds. Panics will get Rise, but still, so little time for the attack. And not much control. Sneaky, what is that? Renshiro peeking wide will bite the dust. Yogurts finally gets enemy as he pushes into small office. It's a bit of a bottleneck here for the attack, but it doesn't matter. A 1 versus 1 as a flurry of kills happen, and we have hit a black screen, but we're back! Sneaky planting the diffuser on 0-0-0. One defender left, and he's going to get it down. The mirror window advantage of the attacker in this situation. And the defender trying to peek wide onto it. You can see that attacker has the drone to support him. Information being called out here for Sneaky, and he has all he needs to clutch. He's playing it aggressive, playing it smart, trying to keep his advantage. Goes for the free fire. The smoke has that SG-11, but he switches, and Sneaky with the pistol wins the round. Mockit win bank and pushes on to map 2.
The frustration that sets in when you are being consistently marked, and you can see that smoke was nearly at his wit's end. And an end does come, but it's not his wits, it's Mockit taking it as Sneaky with a tremendous effort, not just on the map, but also in that round for his team. And he has had such a good showing since joining Mockit and has played very, very well. Now, for Millenium, there's a couple things that they can go back and rewatch about the way that that played out. Just a couple issues. They lost either roamers early on. That seemed to be an issue, and a couple times, there were 2 rounds in particular that Mockit ended up winning because enemy was allowed to go unchecked, playing aggressively near one of the hatches that they knew that Millenium had to seize control of, especially on Archives Tellers when CCTV was being defended by Mockit.
I think a lot of that last round for me was just the aggression from the attack coming into Tellers and no contention at all in Tellers. Archives, the defense started putting up a fight, but so much ground was lost at that point, and only about 40 seconds into the round. That meant that as soon as the attack figured out where they needed to rotate to, as soon as Mockit figured out what the problem was, what the roadblock was, they could put players in positions at the sides of those roadblocks to engage them at multiple angles and deny the defense any potential rotation. I mean, having Lion playing over by Square Skylight and able to deny a cafeteria, I know it's a part of the defense that Millenium wasn't trying to utilize. It's a zone that they didn't want to actually have be part of their hold. But if we had seen that mirror window be opened up, and then one of the defenders rotate over into cafeteria because they didn't have a Lion over in Square Skylight, then it could have very well been a different round. I mean, in the last 1 versus 1, we saw the defense lose because their own mirror window countered that position from the smoke, as well as, of course, great information from Sneaky's teammates on their drones, and just a great play from Sneaky overall. But there were so many things taken into account there from Mockit, and you really have to give them massive props to picking apart that defense and doing it differently than they did the last time and in the first round of the match. So good job to them being able to mix things up, and they definitely earned that 5-2.
Now, this just could be because Bank was Mockit's map, and maybe Millenium doesn't look as strong on it. Sure, we won't be able to determine whether this was just an outlier unless we, go to a 3rd map, which will be required for Millenium to take the series. But Mockit has continuously impressed and gotten better from their very first matchup. They're learning, they're playing well as a team, they're making the adjustments where they need to. And I think the one thing for me about Mockit that I've been most impressed with is that level of communication. You can see the small changes that are being made mid-round for somebody to find one of the roamers and dispatch one of their entries to go particularly in that direction and hunt them down, or make changes knowing that the defense is stacked up on one of the sites and make that call. That's the kind of level of communication that you need when you're facing strategies that you might not be prepared for or might be new. And I gotta say, Millenium has way more than just a handful here at the moment, and this is a big scare for a team that has been consistently one of the top 4 teams in Europe, and for a period of time was one of the best teams in the world, now facing the prospect of potentially not even making the playoffs, let alone land.
84% in favor of Millenium in terms of the community vote, and 16% at least were half right, as the first map, of course, going to Mockit. So definitely a really treacherous course that Millenium is now treading, but we're going to go on to map 2 and find out if they can bring it to a 3rd on Kafe. This will be Millenium's map pick, and if we should get to the 3rd, it will, of course, be Border. So Kafe, I'd say a stark contrast from Bank. Very dissimilar map, but one that I'm sure both teams are undoubtedly very familiar with.
there was no shortage of action that we just saw on Bank, and with the way that both of those teams played, I think Border would certainly give us a set of fireworks that would be
Kafe as well.
wonderful to behold. Kafe is going to be very interesting
Attackers
because of
need
the
to
way that
locate
they are
and
played
defuse
out
bombs.
so differently. I can imagine there being
Attackers
a
have
lot of
located a
patience
bomb.
between these teams.
Yeah, probably going to see a lot of your typical Kafe play, whereby, of course, lots of time from the attack spent on the top floor, or, well, not the top floor, on the roof, and then a lot of time spent on repel, and a lot of time gauging the defense, figuring out where they need to strike and how they can strike and how they can't, and before actually going for the push. And with the defensive side, it all comes down to making a setup that the attack is not geared or properly equipped to handle.
10 seconds
So
left.
that's kind of a rock, paper, scissors, and I think the prep phase in Kafe has a
5
lot more to
seconds to
do
go.
with the outcome of the round overall than many other maps.
Attackers
Of course,
recover the
that's,
diffuser.
you know, prep phase is extremely important in all maps, but, you know, it's definitely really relevant here on Kafe, especially considering if you don't do it in the prep phase as a defender, there's not a lot of opportunity to do it in the action phase.
Right, and it's, in addition to that, you only have really about those 15 to 20, 30 possibly seconds after the prep phase ends. Most teams will use that on setup, though, whether it be positioning themselves on the main floor, on the second floor, or the third floor. It's not unusual to see defense
The
take
attacker's
full
bomb
advantage
diffuser
of the verticality of this matchup. Rise trying to take care of those Ibana charges, but is unsuccessful, and very early on, Mockit will be able to steal away control of the top of red stairs, and they can drop at any point, while a couple members of their team now also watch that hatch from above. The way that they had the Ying position with the Lion, it could be a situation where you just Candela and smoke drop as quickly as you can. Usually doesn't work out because the response that teams have is they'll have somebody with a C4 playing below
bomb has
B
been
site,
located.
just by pillars, waiting for you to drop and get that C4.
And there you go, that's Hicks, who's going to be playing over in Reading Room. And he will be just the man to get the C4 from below should that push come out in earnest. But looks like we are going to see Mockit play it a little bit slower, play it a little bit more typical, take control over the top of red stairs before pushing their way into the piano is the likely attack strategy here from Mockit. And this is something that so often sees play on Kafe. I think it's probably one of the most typical attack strategies. And as the first EE1D pops out, not sure what they're trying to accomplish with that one, but it looks like just trying to deny a potential flame for red. I'm unsure. Either way, that is one EE1D that has been used already. Now there's only, you know, it's probably just time management. You only have so much time really to use them. I suppose they're just trying to get it off. Whatever the case, on the note of time, 1 minute left, second EE1D will be used, and no other utility nor engagements have really come out here from either team. Kind of an interesting decision-making process here from Mockit, as they haven't established much of any control with 55 seconds.
I know we say that pushes have stalled out, but this certainly seems like the last 30 seconds have been Mockit languishing, waiting for any move whatsoever. The barrel of the gun is seen very briefly of the Vigil of Liven, and Panics trying to shoot away at the Vigil to draw him out, cannot accomplish it. The Ying, though, just charges right in. Where is Hicks? Can he get the C4 off? Will there be an explosive finale? He takes out Enemy, and the distraction will come in through the top of red as now Panics looks to creep around. Diffuser goes down, and it's a trade as Rise falls, but Liven is there to take Panics, who had just gotten the kill. Meanwhile, Revan, with that successful diffuser, is just sitting and waiting, sitting right on top of it for the push from red, and it's Liven who will come away with that kill. A drone from Mockit being situated to gather information will assist Mockit, and the rotate from Liven is caught as Boy watches from Skylight, and that will be the end of the Vigil. It's now 2v2 as the diffuser hits the halfway mark, and they're starting to bang away at it. Can they get the kill in time? Hicks will have to peel off, and they'll have to start defusing. Time running out. Sneaky puts a couple bullets in. Renshiro gets the kill, but it's a double for Renshiro, and Millenium will have no problem stealing the round away from Mockit. The defense will get round number one
Disabled by defenders.
just in the
Bomb
nick of
diffusing
time,
attempt failed. Defenders
right
win.
as that diffuser was about to go off. What a play from Millenium to hang on and force Mockit to have to take the fight. And Renshiro waiting patiently.
Some unfortunate mistakes there from Mockit, and overall just great play from Millenium. The C4 from below didn't see utilization, but Hicks, regardless, was one of the main key players to clutch out that round, just through sheer fragging power and his own weapon. Now, it was an excellent round, a retake in particular from Millenium, and I wholeheartedly expected that to be a Mockit win. Now the thing is, the really interesting thing for me there is that Mockit planted in possibly the worst position they could have to hold that plant in the post from the skylight. You saw that they had to force their players to jump down the skylight and the red stair drop to deny the disable of that diffuser. So a bit of a misplay by the Ying in the initial stretches of the round, planting in the wrong spot. I hope that it wasn't planned, because if it was, then that means they're going to need to reevaluate some things. But either way, I'm sure they won't be planting in that corner again.
10 seconds to
If they had planted in the other side of the floor, they could have just probably stayed on Skylight.
5 seconds.
Yeah, you see a lot of plants being done specifically with Skylight in mind.
Attackers
I
have recovered
think
their diffuser.
that
Attackers are heading out to defuse a
they
bomb.
had imagined they would have more than enough opportunity to shoot through that wood casing of the desk or shelf or whatever you want to call it to be able to stop the diffuse from happening. But Hicks just played it in such a way that, for whatever reason, maybe he was just immune, maybe the shots were missing. That's just speculation on our part, but...
I mean, the skylight you can see the diffuser from the skylight on that angle. It's just very difficult, and the main reason why is, of course, the radiator next to, or what have you, the giant metal box next to the skylight. There's a very little angle that you can see the defenders on, but it's so little that defenders can contest that angle easily.
You can also see that diffuser, though, from the very bottom floor, just outside of the one doorway. You can look all the way up, and
You're right.
with the fact that there were two people from Mockit there, I'm surprised that one of them didn't move into that position and then use the drone for some recon. Now, one thing you'll notice on your screen is Rise playing IQ. IQ's Elite set just dropped very recently. You're more than welcome to purchase it with Rainbow 6 credits. It's nice to finally see it. I think this might be the first time that we're actually seeing that IQ skin in Pro League. So there you go, Rise. That's a feather in your cap. About half the round has started at this point. They're still trying to work away on Cocktail. They managed to take one of those Pesky Castle barricades out and open up Freezer, and you've got Renshiro situated on the window. Blackbeard, of course, draws most of his power from being unflankable, and with that face shield can give him an advantage in a lot of gunfights. Given the situation that the SR-25 is in, you can dispatch most enemies in 1, 2, or 3 shots. Now, he manages to just take control of above, but the site is below, and it's Revan there who's able to take out Renshiro. That was the Blackbeard who had no choice but to get drawn in, because you can't hang on that window forever.
Rise from the top of White stairs gets Ravon, who is just lingering at the middle of White. Interesting angle to challenge there as a defender. That's another one of those examples of, you know, you get the kill and you fall back, but not nearly enough, it seems. Now, that is the Miragon, and not a huge loss as the mirror windows are already placed. And on this site, mirror windows often don't see very much use. Void from Laundry will get Hicks as he pushes down the White stairs. Not droning out Laundry first. A little bit of a mistake there. It will cost Millenium, that's for sure. But Rise yet again responding. It's all him in this round for Millenium, and he's going to have to get 3 more if his teammates can't get 1 for themselves.
Grenade from Rise went sailing by. Yogurts from the hatch above will dispatch Sneaky, leaving just Enemy and Panics left to contend against these attackers. They have lots of utility and live and out duels. Enemy with a beautiful shot. Panics will need to clutch. He takes 2. He gets 1 and the down on the sledge. It's all up to Yogurts, but his position is given away. He knows he has Diffuser in hand. He'll get pushed from the Lion, and he's just going to waste time. It's a ring around the Rosie, and Mockit sticks the landing to hold on.
And Millenium falls down.
And that is correct.
Wow. Just what a play there from the Rook in the last final seconds of that round to be able to maintain his life. And that's all that really takes. Now, we've seen 2 rounds go the opposite direction of where you would expect them to with the first couple minutes of the round. I mean, that last round definitely seemed like it was going to be an attacker win. I mean, a 1 versus 3. And then suddenly, oh no, where's the time gone? What's happening? We need to get the defuse plant, but the diffuser's down over by pillars, and the last defender is sitting on top of it. And just not enough aggression. So because of that, Mockit evening things. And they will go on to attack. Now, the interesting thing for me as well is that it was a defense of that middle floor, which is, I mean, typically not your first bomb site, but that's where Mockit chose to go before even attempting to defend the top floor, which is just odd.
As most teams do, they went very top floor heavy, of course.
Yes.
So it took Millenium a fair amount of their gadgets and a fair amount of their utility to be able to open that site up. You've seen that they used a couple of the frag grenades. They had Renshiro come
5
in
seconds left.
to take control on top, but it was Mockit who was able to punish that Blackbeard.
Attackers recovered the bomb.
Now we're going to see something
Attackers'
similar,
objective is to
except there will
locate
be
a
no
bomb and
castle
defuse
this
it.
time around. So that will at least provide Mockit with the ability to push a little quicker and not have to worry about taking care of those 3 barricades, depending on where they're positioned at.
They have brought a sledge just in case, of course. If
Absolutely.
there are castle barricades, again, they can deal with it, but it's not going to be necessary utility per se. I think mostly the sledge mechanics are going to be used just for vertical control. I mean, it's what we so often see on that middle floor in Cafe.
And the grenades as well, keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah,
Attackers have
huge.
recovered their
Jaeger
diffuser.
is an operator who sees play depending on the team's composition,
Attackers
but
have located a
Millenium
bomb.
opting to forego those ADS. So not just will the stuns be more important, but also those Candelas of the Ying and, of course, the frag grenades of Sledge. Panics had charged inside of Cigar Lounge, looking to see who all is up there, but it's Millenium who are holding on the east side. So they've essentially given the west side control of that top 3rd floor to Mockit already. And Panics will be joined by the Hibana of Voy as they sit inside of Cigar, and some droning going on from the rest of their team as now Panics can slowly creep his way up towards the doorway into that bar stockroom. He'll prime a grenade and make the nearest sip, but oh no, Panics misses! And that grenade will catch nothing, but will also alert Renshiro of the possible location of one member of Mockit, and half the round to go, and finally they'll peel off. This is good timing for Millenium.
Ooh, this is interesting. Panic's trying to use the grenade hole he made earlier to cut off rotation of Renshiro, but it doesn't matter. From the window, Renshiro goes down, and Panic's nade will finish him off. He's looking for the second, sees the Ella, but looks away at the perfect moment. And that's going to give Liven the ability to fall back. Voy will get Liven, though, as he falls back into the site. And now a decided advantage in favor of Mockit from behind. Hicks will eat a lot of bullets to the torso. Voy, though, will go down from Yagertz, who's pushed into Piano. What an amazing position from this Legion of Yagertz. And he will be able to fall back into the site. Still plenty of time for Mockit Esports, but they've now lost a very distinct advantage. And Ravon's going to even use utility to try and get back into Piano. Mockit don't have the drones to check this, so they're going to have to do it live.
I'm curious to know where that Legion came from. Yagert's just a hero at the moment. There was so much vertical control that was firmly in hand for Mockit that has been taken away from them. And Revan, as he's trying to get to site, will be pushed off. Millenium is now playing full contact with Mockit as they get very aggressive with their defensive hold. And you can see they're challenging Mockit. From above, enemy is going to try to survey the site. There is a disadvantage for the attackers. They've gotten the first 2 kills, but have not been able to land one since. They'll light one up though, and enemy gets Yagertz. They'll drop. There's Hicks waiting, and Sneaky will get shredded by the Valkyrie. That MBX tears through it. Enemy will need to grab the diffuser. He has it. Can he get the plant in time? He'll run out, unable to stick the landing, and for the second round in a row, the defenders simply win off that clock, striking 0. Millenium takes the lead 2-1.
An absolutely tense round there that could have gone either way. And I feel like we've been saying that a lot, but that's the honest truth. It's just every single time we see these rounds conclude, we don't know who's going to be the one to come out the victor. And I mean, that round could have been very different if the Lion, for example, hadn't died on the entry, if there had been one person left to cover the attempted defuse plant from the Thatcher. You know, just overall, so many things. If Yagertz hadn't pushed his way into Piano, so many things could have been different there. But Mockit,
Attackers need to locate.
not sure what happened with the Yagertz push. Not sure where he came from. Either way, allowing him to get that double kill really opened things up for Millenium.
My guess would be that he probably came on top of White Stairs and was able to
Probably.
crouch walk or crab walk his way into Piano. And because Mockit had dispatched 2 operators above, that was the Ella and the Mira who'd been playing up there, common sense would suggest that there won't be a 3rd up as well. Usually you would have 1 on both sites and then a 3rd afforded in train. That's pretty common to have 3 bodies on site when you're defending Fireplace and Dining Hall, but not in this case. Millenium had taken a gamble by repositioning Yagertz, and it paid off, and it paid off quite well. More so than anything, it could be the reason why they were able to win that round, especially the fact that they, as you said, had to use their utility because their drone economy at that point had run dry.
Yeah, I think even no matter what, Yogurt's being allowed to push up from wherever he came from. If it was white, red, that's also on Mockit not holding those lanes down. I think one of the most common things you'll see when attacks coming out from the top floor to the middle floor on Kafe is the attackers will lock down both staircases so that that will never happen. All said and done though, and we're moving on to the next round. This time Millenium is going to get a chance to attack, and it's going to be back up onto that top floor. So Renshiro repelling on the east windows. With that Blackbird DMR, he is a fearsome opponent that no defender really wants to contest. You can see that they've in fact fallen most of their players off of Cocktail or that A bomb site, which means they're going to be trying to hold it from below. A very heavy roam from Mockit. I think 4 players right now are downstairs, one starting to inch his way back up, but still very heavy roam.
Mockit in really good position with the way that Panix is playing this pulse. He will get pushed out as Hicks takes the ex-Kairos and just misses by a shred, but will now force Panix to have to fall back from playing inside a reading the way he was. Allows him to get any line of sight or get any information without a line of sight above, and then also to know if there's going to be a push coming through that terrace doorway towards pillars or towards reading. You can see Millenium, though, has control of red stairs, and you will need to keep control of at least one of those staircases to prevent a flank that we'd just seen in the previous round that essentially broke things wide open for Millenium. Another EE1D will now ring throughout the site, and enemy will get detected as he heads for the hills. He'll have to hop down bar stairs. First kill's going to go to Sneaky. And now has tagged in place of Panix inside of reading room, so you'll have one information gathering opponent replacing the other.
It's also Diffuser down just outside of reading room, and the attackers are going to have to retrieve that, which will waste so much time. And all the while, Panic's calling out this attempted retrieval for his team. Whether or not they know the Diffuser is down, they will know that they have players to deal with in front of them. Liven from behind will light up Sneaky, but doesn't expect the rotation, and Liven will go down. A nice hole opened there by Mockit, and Ravon will get one. Enemy another, and it's only Renshiro on Millenium in a 1-on-5. He doesn't have much time. He's got to get the Diffuser, and it's the entire team of Mockit. One goes down, but Sneaky will finish off Renshiro, and that's 3, I believe, for him in that round.
So it has been a defensive showcase thus far, with both teams winning every single defense that they've had. A Blackbeard is not an operator that you really want in a final situation, especially when there's more than one enemy left. And that was a situation right there where Renshiro would be hard-pressed to take that one away from the team. And Sneaky, who had a slow start, able to not just find themselves on the board, but do so in pretty spectacular fashion by, as you said, getting those 3 kills, but not just 3 kills, but those were all impactful frags. I really liked the change that Panix made by going down to Bakery, or rather just by the bar, down by the main doorway to watch from above, or from below to watch above him onto that terrace. He essentially took where he was in reading, and he went down a floor and was doing the same job. And this is probably the most even kills we've seen in ages.
One off.
Hicks is 1 off.
You're letting us down, Hicks. What do heck? But yes, it's been a very even match, and I think that's really kind of the trend, the overarching theme of this match, especially on Kafe, is that neither team seems to be stretching around, away with a decisive lead. And I wholly expect this to go all the way to overtime. Probably going to be a 6-5, at least that's the way it's shaping up right now. So that last round was also very interesting because it was a defense of the top floor, but all of the action happened in the middle floor, I believe.
Yes, so as we've seen before, when teams try to assault Fireplace, you can allow the roamers or the offsite players to rebuff you before you can actually take control of the floor in which you need to attack. That was similar, except it was just changed around this time around. They weren't able to take control of the 3rd floor, so they tried to entry through the 2nd, and they didn't really get very far at all. We'll see if Mockit has any success here.
It mostly comes down to that Diffuser being downed inside of pillars, and when you have the Diffuser down, the attack is forced to try and retrieve it. And as you can see, I mean, last round, Millenium, they tried and they failed. But now Mockit setting themselves up on a similar strategy, it seems, as they're coming primarily from the east side of the building. They dealt with 2 Valkyrie cams that were placed outside, so the information for Millenium will be limited. And I also like the Mockit lineup. Look at that, a Capitao coming out, something you don't see every day, even despite his buff to the para recently.
This Capitao Ying combo can be particularly fearsome.
Yes.
You can use those asphyxiating bolts to completely cut off any rotates. Use those smoke arrows from Capitao in conjunction with the Ying flashes. The stun grenades from Void will burn at least an ADS and a half, and that is very, very important for them.
Huh?
Now, this is something that we saw from Fabian and on Penta. You can toss those Legion traps and then break the window behind it so that the Legion mine stays on the windowsill. So for anybody who repels, they take 10 damage and will need to fall off. It will also, of course, work as that audio cue for the defenders to know that there's somebody there. So you've burned an ADS and a half. They know that they will have to deal with 1 more potential ADS, but the benefits of Capitao is that his arrows are, of course, immune to Jaeger's gadget. First kill is going to go to the Ying of Ravon, as Yogurts will no longer be a factor. That's your Legion, and I mean, 2 minutes of him producing his gadget will at least mean that there are a number of mines spread out across the 3rd floor.
Yeah, and Mockit with a man advantage. Now their utility is being used. Red Shiro peeks into the firebolt and gets panicked. Opening up his mirror window so it doesn't hurt his team later in the round. Enemy will get live and Hicks responds onto Sneaky. And Mockit had a decided advantage, but they seemingly started to lose it. Now they might get a defuse plant here. As in the corner, you see there's potentially a C4 to counter it. Renshiro goes down before he can use it though. An enemy from behind will counter that denial. Ravon gets Hicks from below, and it's all Rise now in a 1-on-3. Mockit have resumed control. We're gonna see probably an attack win here as Rise struggles to get anything, any pick, any amount of control to get that diffuser, and he gets one. Enemy goes down. He's got to deal with the Blackbeard. He thinks is repelled on that east window. He's absolutely correct, but he can't vault out. If he vaults out, he doesn't have time to get the diffuser. He doesn't know that there's no one on the skylight. From below, Ravon is going to get him. Nice shot there from the Ying, and that's all it takes. Mockit will finally put an attacking win on the round, or on the board, excuse me. And this is the first one we've seen on Kafe. It's been an entirely defensive-sided match so far.
And I like that Mockit made that adaptation to put a body on the 2nd floor to watch the diffuser from a different angle. The first time they tried that similar strategy, they planted it in the same spot. It was the Ying who vaulted in. It was the Ying who got the plant down. It was the Ying who sat there and waited. But what they didn't do this time was they didn't dither on the actual diffuser. They had the rotates ready and got in position to watch the diffuse. If you recall, it was the Vigil who had peeked from Cigar to kill the Ying and take 1 member of Mockit out of the equation. This time around, the moment that diffuse went down, they spread out and dispersed and allowed enemy to be essentially the only person near that diffuser to deal with the defense, and by doing so they killed enough time. So a great change from Mockit in order to keep their chances or improve their chances, and their chances were more than good enough, giving us our first attacking round win. Now they go to defense. They could potentially be on match point here on Millennium's map on round number 7.
Yeah,
or by round number 7, rather.
By. Well, yes.
10 seconds insertion.
1 more round, as you say, and we'll be on that 4-2 if Mockit keeps winning these rounds, if they can chain them together. But we haven't seen rounds really chain together except for the last 2. It's been a bit of a back and forth. Millennium, definitely not a team you want to count out just yet. And that, yeah, as you said, that diffuse plant position, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you have someone in a spot to deny the disable. And they did that time, so very important for them there. Panics, not sure what's going on over here by the east windows. He's definitely got a plan, maybe just waiting for repel from the roof. It has been a big focus of both teams on attack, trying to come from these east windows. And now you can see Panics using this tiny little hole to try and potentially catch someone off guard. If, for example, Yogurts, as he repelled up just now, had repelled up above that window, he likely would have died to Panics. But none of the attackers making that mistake. In fact, the opposite will happen. A little bit of a kneecap there from Renshiro, and because he's using the DMR, a shot to the knee, even to a 3 armor, is going to do a lot of damage, especially that close of a range.
It took almost 50 HP off of Panics, and he'll have to use 1 stim pistol shot to get himself as close to 100 as it looks to get. He's just a little ways off. I like the fact that Millennium is using their gadgets as efficiently as they can. I mean, it's just been a little over a minute. We're about to hit the halfway mark, and they've managed to open up and be able to breathe on this third floor. Now, let's not forget that the actual site is down on the second floor, so they'll have to quicken their pace once they get inside of the building. Liven will get first kill onto Void. That is the Castle, who, not sure where he was playing, but gets taken out very early on. He was playing on red and gets killed from the hatch as Liven drops.
Curious position there from the Castle. And C4 misused there from Sneaky. Liven going to be able to walk away with that unscathed.
So they've gotten complete control, or Millennium's gotten complete control of that third floor right now. You saw that the enemy and Revan, both of whom were the Mira and the Ella playing from above, have peeled off after the Castle fell, and now will just need to survive this rising tide. Millennium hits the one hatch inside a piano, waiting to see if there's going to be a flank on white. It was Yogurts who had flanked on white last time around in a mirror situation. Liven will get his second kill, though, as Sneaky gets punished, and that is the Valkyrie, who was playing just on site, meaning that for the rest of Mockit, they will need to collapse and prevent this push. You see from above, Sledge still working away, trying to open up more angles to deprive the defenders of a comfortable place to stand. It's Revan who will get a couple shots in, but Yogurts jumps into the fight as Millennium uses 2 to double up on the mirror, and Mockit now finds themselves in a 2v5 with Millennium having a terrific push. They have complete control of site. Renshiro takes out Panics, and it's a 1v5. It will need to be a clutch, but Yogurts deprives Mockit of that opportunity to come back. And we'll all tie it up as the second attacking round win comes in consecutive order. A pretty routine push there, and Millennium just crashes down on Mockit. No chance whatsoever for the defense.
It looked like an ever-flowing tide that just could not be stopped from Mockit, that's for sure. Millennium just had full control there, and it was very one-sided. That's probably the most, on that note, that's probably the most one-sided round we've seen this entire match. So, and now, a bar cocktail defense from Millennium, and Mockit will go back to attack. Now, Mockit has come close to winning that at top floor once and managed to win it another time, so they are well situated to get that match point. But given the back and forth nature of this map, it's possible that, again, as I talked about earlier, we'll probably see that overtime. So, the setup is very common here, and we've been seeing it from Millennium the same way every single time. Millennium is going to put a lot of emphasis on that middle floor. They're going to have Hicks play in the reading room with his reinforced panels just so he can deny the plan. You can see they're tactically placing him to deny that plan on the northeast corner of the floor. However, despite his tactical placement with that C4, we have never seen the C4 from below to deny the defuse plant that inevitably comes from Mockit in the very same corner every single time. That's going to be on Hicks to make that adaptation and change the outcome of this round. Given, of course, the possibility that Mockit could plant the diffuser in the same spot. Now, on that note, we have seen Mockit make some adjustments multiple times to their strategies throughout this match, and it's probable, if not entirely certain, that they will mix things up inevitably and maybe plant in a different spot, but that's on them to figure out. Now, of course, Panic's going to be putting some claymores down over on the west balcony. They're just making sure they don't have to deal with any runouts in the later parts of the round so that they can contest Piano should there be any defenders holding firm in Piano. Panic's going to actually figure out that there is indeed one Millennium player inside of Piano. By spraying that window, he gets reciprocal fire, and now he will be aware of at least one defender's spot. And it's a very important thing, too, because contending the Piano room as a defender is a difficult thing to manage. And when your position is given away, it's even more complicated. You can see holes pre-opened in the northeast corner of this top floor to deny the diffuse plant that's been happening every time for Mockit. Millennium really not shying away from countering that particular spot, as they've seen it so many times now. Rise is going to be the one playing in the Piano bar, and he goes for a spray, but loses the fight to Panics. Mockit now control over the top of Red Stairs, and also, by extension and proximity, Piano Room. EE1D will pop off just to make sure there is no one who can counter this play of the attack over by Piano.
You're still waiting for their push as they try to encircle the defense. Somebody will have to pick up that diffuser. It's sitting up top. And it will be Revon who grabs it. And now they'll begin to push as another EE1 team will go down. There's still one available for them as a minute is left in round number 7. No matter what, match point will always. They've established complete control over the west side of the building and are looking to push in. They'll have to juggle the diffuser yet again. This time Sneaky will pick it up. And there's plenty of opportunity now for Mockit to cause some disruption. But Renshiro, who has been having a tremendous game, will continue those efforts. Voy, as he begins to push as the Hibana, will have no chance. He'll be shredded through that vector. 2 smokes get chained together from Liven, meaning that the push in through Cigar won't happen. And Renshiro, another kill onto Revan, as he'll blind fire through the smoke. They are trying to isolate him inside of that far back stockroom. Sneaky goes for a play. Yogurts, though, will mean one for Millenium as Yogurts 2 and Mockit only has Sneaky left. He'll have to kill them all, even though a C4 from Hicks will claim a member of his own team. A 3-piece from Renshiro. That Mira is unshakable. Try as they best, or try as they might, they could not dislodge her, and a round that looked to be very comfortable for Mockit went to Millenium.
So we saw the C4 finally come out from Millenium, but it was on the wrong player, the wrong team, getting one of their own. Despite that, Hicks has been playing very well, and Renshiro, as you say, unshakable, was not able to be dealt with. So Mockit struggling after they got control over that piano top of red stairs. When they made the actual site push, that's when it all started to fall apart, really. But despite having a good advantage leading into it, it just was not enough. So Mockit going to be going onto the defense of the top floor themselves now, and the same way that Millenium mixed things up, it's going to be on Mockit to make their own changes, because Millenium did a couple things differently there. You know, of course, they played very aggressively inside of Piano, which is a little bit different, and they also had Renshiro playing more aggressively over by Freezer. Usually that Mira just playing super passive. Instead, he chose to be assertive, and it just looked like Mockit wasn't ready for that.
Attackers have discovered the location of a bomb.
It's been a recurring theme here, is that one member of each team is able to steal a round away. And
yeah.
For Millenium now, they will have to hope that their attack is going to be successful. This looks like Mockit is going to play similarly to where we saw them last time on this site, except they will just immediately give Sneaky reading room. Last time around, it was the Pulse of Panics who was playing in that reading room, getting all of the information for his team, and now he's just going to be downstairs watching those bar stairs, as Sneaky will have complete control of reading room. Millenium still circling, trying to find a push for them to happen. It looks like they'll get that red hatch.
Very explosively get that red hatch. Did you see how far that debris went?
It was just a sledgehammer from Live too, but yeah, it just blew up in the air like confetti.
Yeah. So, top floor control, or well, I say top floor. Effectively, the roof is a floor on this map in some respects, given how heavily it's utilized by the attack. But of course, not able to go there as a defender. So, roof control for Millenium, and they will be using it to try and pressure this top floor. Renshiro also repelling on the east window, narrowly missing an opportunity to get a kill there onto what looked like possibly enemy loot. If not him, the smoke either way. Very narrowly walking away with his life. Ryze will get a nade onto Panics that is huge. The pulse from below no longer able to C4. Sneaky does have a C4 of his own, but he won't have the heartbeat detector to help him. Liven will also get enemy, so Mockit falling part at the seams. We're on match point here for Millenium. They only need to get one more round to get the win.
They saw that Panics had rotated back up to join Sneaky in reading room, probably to assist the Valkyrie with a push coming in through Terrace. Another grenade will sail in past Ravon, who just briefly sees the head of Ryze, is unable to capitalize. But up top, Voy is, and that's Liven off the board. They've lost their sledge. Tons of explosive opportunities for the attackers. Ryze will get his second kill of the round as Voy doesn't have much of a chance. He'd unsheathed that C4, but is caught wanting. Now it'll be all up to Sneaky and Ravon to capitalize. A long shot from the MPX of Sneaky will take the head off of Ryze. The IQ rewarded for his strong play, and that will get us more narrow. And Revan in great position to greet anybody who repels in through east windows. That Vector will have no issue whatsoever tearing through any attacker who repels in. It's Renshiro right now who is up there. He'll do some drone work, and that rifle shield will make a big difference. He'll be under fire from 2 angles, and Red Light will stop him if both teams push into the same time. Revan with a clutch. He gets one, but Renshiro now takes him out. It's all up to Sneaky from below with the C4, who can halt this in its tracks. Waiting for a push in. He doesn't see the rappel. Oh no, but the nitro cell will go off a bit too belated. Hicks holds the diffuser. If Sneaky rotates up, it will be right into the waiting arms of the rifle shield of Blackbeard. Cannot connect. They'll need to get the diffuse down. And Sneaky will manage to stick the landing and send us to overtime. What a clutch from Mockit. As just no chance. Millenium runs out of time. And there's nothing Blackbeard or Renshiro can do.
Talk about upsets. What a round. Millenium, huge misplay by the Habana, moving himself over to the most exposed spot he possibly could be in, instead of simply planting the diffuser where he knows he cannot be pressured. The C4 was gone there for the Valkyrie, which means no play from below. Had to push up through the white stairs. Somehow, Blackbeard missed all the shots. The stars truly aligned there for Sneaky to give Mockit that round win. And Millenium have got to be kicking themselves for that one. This means that Mockit are yet again in a position to deny Millenium a third map and simply lock it out here and get that spot in the playoffs.
And the real story for me is no matter what happens, this is Millenium's matchup. This should be Millenium cruising to a 5-2, 5-3 victory. And I would say that most people would agree with us. 84% of you would agree that Millenium should not be in dire straits like they are right now. There should not be an overtime on Millenium's matchup in these two teams in theory. And I think that speaks to how strong Mockit has looked over the last couple of weeks. They've definitely learned and adapted as a team. Hard to believe that it was Mockit who got ran over by Penta, and then Millenium giving Penta a scare last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, in their last set of matches. And now it's Mockit giving Millenium the scare.
I know I like to reference familiarity a lot, but it could just be that. It could be familiarity. I mean, these are two teams that are very well, they understand each other. You know, they're both French teams. They've got teammates, or most of these players have played with each other at one point or another throughout the existence of Pro League. I mean, even not in Pro League, these players are all very familiar with each other. So that could be a big reason why Mockit is giving Millenium such a struggle here and potentially even knocking them out. I mean, it also could be just that Mockit are well practiced for these maps. I mean, while this is Millenium's map, Mockit seems to be really strong on it as well.
Even with Rise being a former member of the predecessor to Mockit, hasn't really seemed to be that much of a difference maker. But we are in round number 1 of overtime, and Millenium breaching inside of Cigar Lounge. You can see that the site is, or Millenium rather, just waiting for a breach into Cigar Lounge. My apologies. And it's Mockit doing some drone work over top of the Skylight. Now, this looks like it's going to be the same push from Mockit that we've seen time and time again, which is they're going to likely just drop in.
What? Panics! No situational awareness.
And he's going to creep up the stairs and completely miss Hicks, and that is Panics just going right by.
He just walked right by him?
This could be the second time that Hicks stays frozen on the stairs and doesn't see the enemy to connect. Hicks is just patiently waiting.
There's no way that the attack of Mockit is going to drone downstairs yet again. They think this is clear. Panics has just walked by the Valkyrie, and as soon as Hicks chooses to press W a little bit, go up the stairs and engage Panics, he will be able to get a kill, but the opportunity is lost. Panics is relocated, and now he's watching his flank. Oh no! What a debacle. And no one on either team will be aware of it until the match is over and they can review the VOD. Either way, here comes the utility from the attack and the push. Ravon coming into the top floor. He's going to go for a diffuse plant in a completely separate corner than is normal. Panics will get Renshiro because he was allowed to walk by the Valkyrie. Void will get Rise. Enemy onto Hicks. Millenium falling apart. 2 on Cocktail now. The red light pops off. Yogurts is detected, and he gets his teammate killed. But finally, he will get Ravon, and Mockit in a 4 versus 1. They gotta be feeling good about this in the post plant. Yogurt's also on 1 HP, and Sneaky will lock him down as the mirror window gets opened up. All because of Valkyrie was on cams and Panics inexplicably walked right by him.
Hicks and Stairwells on Kafe. Name a more iconic duo. You can't.
You know, Hicks, my guy, it's a totally different stairwell, man. It's not even red.
At least there's some changes to stairs, you know. So, overshadowing, of course, the head-scratching play that we saw involving Hicks and Panics, the way that Mockit was able to read that defense after sitting for so long and waiting for 1 or 2 members of their team to finish droning, I don't think Millenium saw the way that play was going to read out. And especially when Renshiro, who has looked like probably the best player in this entire match, has been incredibly consistent, very impactful frags, and just really making plays to keep his team in the fight, round after round after round. Renshiro being the first casualty for Millenium is where you can slowly see that defense start to unravel. And at that point, Mockit was just able to hit the hot drop very fast. They isolated 2 defenders inside the cocktail side of the map and got that plan down. There was no contest whatsoever. And I'm actually, frankly, a little surprised that these teams that these teams are not making adjustments to alleviate the attacker's pressure onto Reading Room, because this is the 3rd or 4th round that neither team has been able to get a successful C4 after a Skylight drop.
We have not seen one.
You should not be able to drop Skylight in that manner without the fear of a potential C4 awaiting your feet hitting the ground. But because of the way that both these teams have been playing, that rotate has been denied. I'm surprised that neither are doubling up to prevent the attackers from essentially zoning you out of getting that C4 off.
They doubled up on the roam downstairs a couple rounds ago. We saw a Pulse and a Valkyrie combo in Reading Room, which was an adaptation, but it was countered by a grenade from the sledge that just came in and, oh, your Pulse is now dead, it's just a Valkyrie. But no matter what, we have not only not seen a successful C4 from below, and here's Sneaky wasting his C4 on the doorway. He will narrowly miss it, and it will eventually be shot. But anyway, we have, oh, he's actually going to go in for it! And he's getting spotted by the drone, but it's not going to matter, and he throws it out after retrieving it. And another one to follow that up, it seems, maybe from someone else. Either way, no, okay, so we, as I was trying to say, we have not seen a successful C4 once. And not only have we not seen a successful C4 from below, but every round there's been someone in a position to C4, and we have seen an unsuccessful C4 in the manner of killing one's own teammate. So we're in the negatives with this play. Both teams need to figure out how to change that and adapt it. Panic's trying to protect his teammate here. He'll be playing over by pillars to support that Valkyrie play from below. Sneaky doesn't have a C4 anymore, but it's still a relevant position.
Renshiro is going to need to be as good on attack as he has been on defense. He's been absolute rock for that team. Playing on the Mira, and the Blackbeard will need to do just as much work. Now, Millenium have managed to open up a fair bit of sight lines in A site and can look below into Reading, which is where you see a couple members of Mockit playing. A grenade is going to sail in, and Ravon will lose about a fraction of his health. That's about a quarter taken off. There's a Doc and Panic, so if he can get within striking range, then that stim pistol can bring them back to life. Oh no! Sneaky just immobile. He'll take Hicks down before Rise can refrag. And now another as Rise gets 2 very fast kills, and will have to pick Yogurts up and give his team a lot of space to work with. There is still an Echo on the board, and this is really an interesting thing. We have not really seen an effective Yokai play. Liven gets dispatched by a C4, and Mockit now just waiting, but Renshiro allowed to waltz right in. A good combo as enemy's going to sustain some damage. You can see the Yokai doing the work that you intended to, but it gets stuck. They see the defuse going down. They'll have to do it manually and will not be successful. The texture on the top of the ceiling will stop Voy from being able to connect, and the plant will go down easy peasy. It'll be difficult for Mockit now to be able to retake the site. Enemy still has the mirror available to him, expecting a push, but he'll get downed as Yogurts pushes very wisely. It's all going to be up to the Echo, but there's no chance. Millenium locks them out of the sight, and we'll go to an 11th round to determine which of these two teams will claim Kafe Dostoyevsky in either a 2-0 victory for Mockit or a third map awaiting us on Border.
So, if you are only vaguely familiar with Rainbow Six and its function, that yokai drone, I'm sure you're wondering, scratching your head, what's going on with the drone? Why didn't it deny the defuse plan? And it wasn't a bug, it wasn't a glitch, it wasn't negligence on the player's side, it was the texture on the ceiling. That texture, that bump, means that it's not actually, the yokai drone is not actually hitting the absolute ceiling and therefore cannot stop, and then also cannot use its disorientating features. So, if that yokai had been spacebarred somewhere else, had been put on that ceiling somewhere else, we would have seen a completely different outcome there. Mockit would have clutched out. This would have been a 2-0. But it was a little bit of miscalculation and a little bit of a jumping of the gun there from the Echo. And because of that, now we're on 5-5. This is where we expect it to be. I think Kafe being 5-5 was what we were saying moving into it, to be fair.
A lot of people have spoken about how can you raise Echo's pick rate as an operator. How can you see him be used more effectively? And that right there is a pretty significant drawback to a yokai. When you're operating that yokai, you have no idea if you're going to be able to stick to the ceiling above you. And there you go, right to the, just where the hand of the Valkyrie was located, you saw that little railing around, or the trim around the skylight, that is where the yokai hit. Even something like an indicator that when you're driving the yokai that you can safely float to the top of the ceiling and stick, or even just reducing the time that that yokai just hovers in midair before falling back down, would both be two huge quality of life changes for Echo that would make him a lot more viable in certain situations.
There's a lot of really good reasons that he can't just, stick to any surface he hits. It would be really easy to exploit that on just putting it on the yokai drone in like little nooks and it being really hard to see it and find it and disable it. But yeah, I think an indicator, something to like let the people know or let the players know when they can and cannot use that yokai drone, because right now it's just a guessing game, and especially on Kafe, you have so many of those little rails on the, you can see them right now on the ceiling. And there's more to it than that as well. Even if, for example, if you cannot stick to the ceiling, it just drops you down faster. He had enough time if he had instantly popped down. Either that's all a conversation for another time. Renshiro's going to get Ravon, and that's the Yingon for Mockit. So they have just been defanged before even executing onto the top floor in what appears to be a bot or a middle floor defense here. So not going to have so much utility on their execute. They're going to have to claw their way out of a very significant hole.
The composition that is currently being ran by Mockit is the same one that has had so much success for them when they have been attacking up top on Bar Cocktail. Because neither of these teams won a defense in overtime, every single site was open for Millenium. Instead of going back to Cocktail, which you had seen Mockit just win on, they opted to go down to Fireplace and hope for better results. And losing the Ying means that those better results could be a lot sooner than you think. And Renshiro, who has just had an outstanding game, he's essentially holding down a roam up above single-handedly, and that's causing a lot of issues for Mockit.
E1D going to pop off to enable this push. Hicks will get sneaky on the mirror window, but quickly dispatched. And what is this? Rise overlooked by Panix, and a huge mistake from Panix is costing his team dearly, leaving enemy in a 1 versus 3, and he can only get Renshiro. And that is it. Good halves come out in the chat. Millenium will push us on to map number 3, Border.
Pretty astonishing that this matchup went the full distance, and Border is going to be a real showdown. Always nice to see the elite animations, and of course, Rise's mute. If it had been on attack, Rise would have gotten the IQ elite animation. So for that team right now, Rise and Renshiro both doing an absurdly good job for their team, but I gotta give that, Renshiro was a huge difference maker in that matchup. The way that they were able to play around him, give him the space he needed, and the way that he could keep space for the rest of his team was a huge contributing factor into why Millenium was able to, I would say, eke out a victory there, because that...
that was so narrowly a victory.
It was pretty tense.
And that, we could have seen it be a 6-5, or rather 6-4 in favor of Mockit if just an inch to the left with the Yokai drone. I mean, there were so many other rounds too where it's the same thing though. I mean, Millenium had a couple losses on attack because of not enough time, you know, just pushing in too late and leaving one defender still standing. There were so many instances where both team would narrowly get the win, and that's what makes a good match. And that's why I'm personally kind of excited that we're going to get to go to Border.
Was I had written down on my notepad Oregon because I knew it was Border, but I don't know the difference between maps apparently.
Well, to be fair, we've just now gotten out of the Border Oregon, Border Oregon, Border Oregon.
Honestly, it's nice to see this diversity. It's nice to see that Bank, Consulate, Cafe, Coastline, Chalet are all seeing a rise in play. Still waiting on Skyscraper to really join. Skyscraper still kind of lagging behind all the rest of them, but that is okay.
There are a lot of teams that don't like Skyscraper.
We're looking at Border. It's a map that plays in some... The similarities that it shares with Cafe are that most of Cafe's floors are completely destructible. You can play those two-way angles, similar to the way that Border works. Bank doesn't see as much straight floor destruction. There's a lot more hatch play on Bank than there is on Border and Cafe. And the way these teams were working was, you know, there was a first, a second, and a third floor game from every single team, or from both teams on almost every single round. How well is that going to translate to Border on a map that is quite large but does rely, especially if you're defending one of the bottom floors, on that strong play from above?
Well, I think for both teams, as you say, it was that emphasis on both floors. And on Cafe, while it's relevant, it's not nearly as relevant as it is on Border. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to, or a lot of the round outcomes are going to come down to how these teams play their roamers down in Ventilation Workshop, and then also in the vice versa, in Armory and Archives when they're defending the opposite. Now, there's a lot of potential for late flanking, especially when defending Armory Archives, and I think that's why it's one of the more preferred sides, excuse me. It's because you can not have any roamers downstairs. And then in the last minute of the round, you could open up some drop downs and have one of your players with C4 just fall downstairs and deny the plant. Without even retaking the site, you effectively deny the attack, their entire strategy, just by falling downstairs. So I think a lot of it's going to come down to whichever team manages to keep an emphasis on attack in the floor that is not where the bomb site is.
Right. A number of teams, especially we saw this in Obey, Alliance's game against Space Station Gaming, was they almost always had a pulse playing below the site. And as you said, you can keep the pulse up top and then maybe hit one of the hatches and drop down later on. Usually will be the hatch that's inside of Archives and then have them drop if you know that there's going to be a push on Armory Wall, or if you know that they're coming in through Office, etc. And it just allows you a lot of flexibility. On top of that, you also have that customs defense too, which you can see teams pull out, which still may be not the true bona fide second most viable site on defense. Usually that still goes to the workshop site. But when you're looking at customs, you still have teams that can potentially pull that out. And I mean, I think it was the Vitality Ents match where Vitality went to every single site in their first 4 defenses, and Ents just was unable to keep up with that constant change. Bank was a bit lopsided. Cafe was an entirely different story. What's your prediction? I'm gonna hold you to a prediction. How are we looking at Border? Are we seeing extra innings on Border? What are we doing here for our third map? Okay,
based upon the results that we just saw, if Mockit keep playing the way they have been playing throughout the series, they're going to take it. I think Mockit has been taking, they've been taking some close rounds off of Millenium, but I would argue that Millenium are the ones who are looking much more shaky today. However, that could easily change. Now, Mockit just now faced a really devastating loss on Cafe. Seemingly, they had it all within their grasp, and it fell through their fingers. So there is a lot to be said about the mental game of Mockit right now. And if they don't let that loss on Cafe trip them up, I think they'll take it through and through. But that's on them, and then to be able to keep their focus.
Now, so no matter what, I think the real story going into this is that Millenium has consistently been a top 4 team. Yes. For those that don't know, Mockit actually entered through relegation. So they came into Pro League as the most recent team. And we'll see, can they make it into the playoffs? We've already had somewhat of an abnormal season in Europe with Ents' streak being broken, and not just being broken, but also competing in relegations. Will Millenium be the next major European team to potentially fall out of the top 4? They'll have to have as good of a showing as they had on Cafe. A repeat of their performance on Bank would spell the end of their season. We will head to Border map number 3, all tied up defense will go in favor of Millenium to start things off.
So this map typically,
Defenders, protect your bombs.
no matter too much where you choose to if you're defending first or defending second, given that you have so much opportunity to defend, but at the same time, it comes down to the intricacies and the executions of each attacking strategy, whether or not you see success. So pressure on both sides here moving forward. A lot of anti-electronic on Mockit's side. Only one set of smokes to follow up the Glaz, and that's Glaz's own smoke. So kind of interesting decision making there from Mockit. Millenium, on the other hand, they're going to be bringing a very typical hold, very typical operator lineup. No surprises there.
10 seconds remaining.
Some mirror windows going to be set up in very common positions. Of course, you're going to see one over by Fountain and then one in that small office. And these two mirror windows together will allow a very diverse pull. Now, we haven't been seeing a lot of Twitch lately, and I think that's Millenium reading into it there, saying, okay, if we're not going to bring Twitch, then we're not going to worry about holding our mirror windows. It's something we've actually seen a little bit of today is late mirror window placements, but if there's no Twitch, it's not something you need to stress.
Hasn't been much Twitch at all.
Yeah,
played in any
it's
regions,
weird.
actually. It's
I think IQ has kind of edged her out a little bit along with Ash at the same time.
we usually see the fact that a high percentage pick rate, and Mira is directly responsible for Twitch's high pick rate as well, hovering just outside of the top 5, at least in previous seasons, but not in this case. There's been, outside of Lion, there's actually been quite a wealth of diversity in the actual operators that are brought, which is great to see, but I think some people have opinions as to whether or not an operator sitting at 95+% is almost ideal. So,
oh, what do they know, right?
What do they know?
95%.
Just stand still.
It's not a problem. Yeah, just stand still. You know, people are gonna look back on that meme.
Look at that small.
Pretty sure he's behind the.
He was behind it, but you saw that very small opening for even a peek around that. Liven could have potentially been able to get a very early kill, but will be held off for the time being. E1D ringing through all of the map. An enemy will work his way up towards the office door, or the archives doorway rather, completely bypassing the office. And there's no real pressure being applied at the moment from Mockit onto the office or Fountain side. There's a mirror there that will at least slow them down for the time being. Instead, they will now finally work their way into office, and what a read from the Jaeger of Rise as he takes the ADS down to prevent himself from being grenaded. Very common, as you can see, that mesh, or that webbing rather, from above. That grenade will go down, and Rise will be able to take out Panics as he pushes. What a brilliant play from Rise. We see this on a few occasions, but that is absolutely a bona fide 200 IQ play there. And the ADS still alive as he's getting flashed, and they will get an exothermic charge down. The head of the Jaeger just misses Rise's reticle, and they will be able to open up archives quite successfully as another EE1D.
Hicks, though, and Rise together holding this firm. Rise will get Ravon, and now the last attacker inside of the office goes down to Rise. A triple kill. Sneaky will finally shut him down and get 2 for himself. C4 from below, though, gets Void. And Sneaky now the last attacker. He will have to ace to win this round, and with only a sliver of HP, it's not likely. Knows that there's a defender below and watches the stair, very wise. The diffuser has been down, and he'll have to retrieve it later on. But oh, he's peeking wide into the hallway. He's gonna give his position away in just a moment. Liven will have the opportunity to get the frag, and he does! Sneaky goes down, Liven locks it out. Millenium take round number 1.
You'd mentioned that potential move from one of the information gathering operators, be it a Pulse, be it a Valkyrie. You can even use a Mute or a Mira later on in the round, providing that there is a Valkyrie cam up there so that the Mira gets a call on to where that throw that C4. You saw it firsthand. It was Liven playing as the Valkyrie who was able to use the C4 to take out one of the 2 remaining members of Mockit. At that point, Sneaky just had no chance whatsoever, so a pretty good start. Also, have to give amazing commendation to Rise's play inside of Fountain, not only to preserve that ADS, but also to pressure the attackers. He almost single-handedly stopped Mockit's push into the site by his play. To be able to have that, that helps your team by quite a lot. Similar to the way that Renshiro was working on Kafe. So, absolutely a tremendous round from all of Millenium, and they're going to need to have a couple of those if they want to be able to put this map away.
So this is rather interesting. Mockit going downstairs instead of to the top floor just to start things off. And this is very likely to try and counter the Millenium operator selection and force them into a pick that isn't exactly ideal. Now, Millennium has bought operators that will definitely aid them here on a ventilation take, but they also are missing a few. And this is also just building on the interesting nature of this defense. They are going to be putting a mirror window inside of storage, facing towards the main hallway. I don't think we've ever seen this in Pro League. So
Certainly don't see this every day.
you don't see it every day, and I don't think we've seen it once yet in the Pro League. So this is something new from Mockit. Now the one problem I could see this presenting is that it's so easily countered as a mirror window from the window of storage or from just entering into box, which is the room adjacent to storage. And it's, you know, of course that's an accessible wall for the attacker should they choose to utilize it. But if Millennium isn't aware of the mirror window, and I'm sure they're not given how odd it is, then they will probably have to confront it head on, and that will cost them, I think, dearly if properly utilized by what I believe to be a Sneaky playing the spot right now.
So they, instead of having a ton of bodies up top, they will invest quite heavily off-site, but on the same floor. And yes, as you said, it's very peculiar. I mean, they still at least have that typical castle strategy that is being involved to slow you down if you choose to push inside of bathrooms and essentially keep one of your bomb sites safe. But I mean, they didn't even castle off of bathrooms. So I'm very interested to see what Mockit's plan is on this actual setup.
I mean, it's kind of working out for them so far, right? A minute 10 wasted, Millennium only now getting into archives, and they haven't really gotten much pressure onto the defense at all. Hick's gonna use a thermite, and here comes the impact to get Lion. Yogurt's trying to open up that castle barricade manually, will give his position away. Panics will fully capitalize. What a great play from the castle. And now, Millennium the ones at a disadvantage after losing one of their most pivotal operators in the first 2 minutes.
They'll still have to deal with that one mirror looking all the way down the hallway
A bomb has been located.
towards the east lobby. So Voy will have to expose himself, get the mirrors, and for some reason, Millennium will not pressure him at all. They will just allow him to use his Vector to take off all of those X-Karos, and that is incredibly valuable for his team because you'd seen those X-Karos had been used on a castle barricade earlier on. There could be no utility available for Liven at this point, and that would spell almost disaster for any kind of destructibility that you need to use on the site.
Well, luckily the walls are actually opened up, and there's still one thermite charge left. The C4 from Ravon, though, gets Renshiro, and Hicks has been downed. Almost a double kill there for Ravon, and the thermite charge denied. Diffuser also down, and Liven's gonna try and retake to get his teammate and the diffuser. He will be partially successful, but shut down by Ravon, who gets a triple kill, going for a fourth. Cannot get it. Rise pushing into bathroom now, and he's gonna have to find 3. But as we talked about earlier, that mirror window is still intact. An enemy inside of Customs is looking to contest this IQ push, but straight into the site. No contention whatsoever. Sneaky goes down on the mirror window. Enemy from the hallway will finally shut down Rise. But what an odd series of events.
And they still had left that one off-site play of the dock of Sneaky just sitting there with the bandit as well. So even though they were able to get those kills, even though they were able to take control away from Mockit, and even though Millennium was able to just completely rush inside a site uncontested, you still had the 2 aggressive site players of Mockit just sitting within striking distance, and strike they did. Even though it ended up being a trade, it's still a trade that favors the defense. So I really liked what we saw from Mockit there. It's very unusual. I don't know how often we're going to see it again, but this could be also a strat that is making its debut, and it certainly appeared to catch Millennium off guard.
Need to locate and defuse bombs.
Right you are, and Ravon really the standout there for Mockit in that round that allowed them to get that win with the pulse play over by Bathroom. Tremendous job to him. So, still a long road ahead of us here with this map, given how close it seems to be. I mean, I think it's just going to keep going back and forth. This will be a similar story to what we saw on Kafe. There will be no clear victor, likely until the very last round. But of course, not going to be either team walking away with a significant lead. At least that's what it seems like. So, defense of Customs. This is interesting. We have seen now 2 somewhat upsets in terms of site selection. A ventilation defense to start us off on for Mockit, and now Millennium as their secondary site will go to Customs area. So the way that you defend this is very simple. You need to hold CCTV. It's similar to the bar gaming room defense on Chalet. It's all about holding that top floor. And it's going to come down to good mirror window placement as well as castle barricade placement to make that happen. Sneaky trying to open up above the barricade so that he can allow his teammate to go for a thermite. The reason he opened up above is just to fake out a grenade. If there was a bandit there, he would have had to fallen off because of the potential grenade and couldn't bandit trick the wall actively.
So what you do with the site essentially is you shrink the map, so it's basically just the actual site, and then the floor above it, you basically cut off the rest. You won't really have many roamers holding that far off. You basically just shrink the map by about 2/3 of its size, and you fight over that, and that's exactly what we see here. I like also they timed that EE1D in addition to that grenade fake that you mentioned. Liven just had
no options.
No options whatsoever to try and bandit trick. He will manage to get one bandit charged out, but he's once again frozen in place. You find that a lot of times the bandit will still stop, even if they are behind a reinforced wall, just because it's still more vital for you to not give that position away. Sneaky getting a kill onto the smoke of Hicks. He'd gone for a run out inside a detention, and the smoke is completely done for. You need that smoke alive on this push, and Sneaky will get his second kill. Meanwhile, off site, as Liven gets taken out, enemy sustaining some damage, but he's still breathing. As a rotate from the castle of Renshiro inside of security, he's halted by that EE1D.
All three defenders are inside a CCTV cafeteria right now. Their only hope is to defend this site from the top floor. But Mockit are looking for their opportunity to go into the site and get that defused plant. Taking this nice and slow. They know they have the advantage, but they're not trying to lose it by a brash play. Now, enemy with the diffuser is over by Tellers, and he is going to be looking to move in as the castle barricade gets opened up by Panic's lifeline and go for that plant on top of the table. He's finding the position. Renshiro will get Ravon, but Rise is dispatched by Void through the smoke using that heat detector on Glaz's scope. Now it's just Renshiro and Jagerson. They're in the post plant. Drop downs are being denied, but Renshiro, what an angle to play. Sneaky goes down, and that's going to allow Jagerson to rotate, but he is quickly destroyed by Void outside of that doorway over by Passport, playing a very dangerous angle. Renshiro now with very little HP is going to have to retake onto 3 players, and it just doesn't seem likely. Crossfire, and enemy is the one to get the kill this time from the main doorway of the site. Mockit will win the attack onto Customs. A good pick apart there coming from Passport and that area. I believe that is also the very first attack win that we've had on Border.
That is correct. So Mockit just able to bully all of Millenium. Now, Millenium you saw got very aggressive after Mockit's initial push, and that aggression did not end up being a smart move on their part, especially losing the smoke. It is very difficult to describe how important a smoke is, not just on every site, but in particularly on Customs, because usually you're funneling in through 1 or 2 choke points where the smoke can sit above, somewhat safe. If you do not get pressured inside of CCTV from above, that smoke can just lob those smoke grenades down and completely choke you out. But to have a smoke get that aggressive, that's shades of what Boonsy did against Vitality. As the smoke, he jumped out of a window just next to ventilations, and the smoke was off the board. I don't know what it is with this map. And smokes thrusting themselves into claymores, but don't do it. If you're watching this game, don't do it.
Yeah, definitely a lesson to be learned there with smoke play. I mean, just to note on that, a bit of a trademark of the Latin American region, which of course is not what we're watching right now, Zero, but a bit of a trademark of the Latin American region is they will have their smokes roam deep on maps. They will actually put them as one of the primary roaming roles, and that's just like a generalization, sure, but there are quite a lot of teams in Latin America who will do that. But when those smokes are roaming, they play very smart. Typically, you'll see them actually be sometimes even the last player alive on their team. And it's a bit of a bait and switch, I'm sure, with them, but you don't often see people running into claymores. So definitely, yeah, a lesson to be learned. But in this round, Millenium on attack, Mockit defense, East stairs control for Millenium. They already have the first step of their attack, and going on to a much more common bomb site, the Armory here for Mockit. This is the first time that Mockit has come to Armory, given that they defended ventilation on their first hold, and now this is only their second. They also are going to be playing a pulse downstairs. This is a very useful tool to have to try and deny pressure into CCTV, as well as potentially a late diffuse plant.
So Both teams respecting that information gathering from below. Being a Valkyrie first time around, and this time it will be a Pulse. Ravon as the Pulse. He's had a pretty good day. We'll see if he's going to be able to be as impactful in the latter rounds. Now, the only major drawback is that if you get pinched early, that is a lot of utility that is gone. A grenade from Rise will just narrowly miss enemy, and he will concede all of Fountain. Very quickly, Millenium will see that now Fountain is theirs for the taking. They can just push up, and I believe there is a meme that we say from time to time to describe that, but we're going to hold off on saying it, at least just for now. Another EE1D will go off, and CCTV being assessed by the Hibana of Liven, but still Millenium struggling right now to get all of their bodies into the site.
Yeah, now we do have office control for Millenium, but there's going to have to deal with the player downstairs. You can see they're moving Liven downstairs just to do just that. Panix is going to be the first one to confront Liven. He's also got to deal with Rise on that IQ, and he will. Rise dispatched, and the pistol comes out from Panix. He's struggling a little bit more than he needs to. Could have possibly just reloaded there, and because of that aggression from Panix, he will lose his life. So potentially there is a strong advantage for Mockit, kind of thrown away, and now Ravon is going to have to go into his solo roam mode to get Liven, and he will! What a shot from Ravon, and Liven caught out in the open mid-rotation. Now Millenium are the ones at the disadvantage. Finally, they will get that office wall opened up. Now they can move their way into Archives, and Yogurts gets enemy on a questionable rotation from A to B. That's because there's very little time left. The defense just trying to hold this out. The defuse plant is coming down when Shiro gets sneaky from the long angle, and Ravon from below denies the defuse plant. Only 3 seconds left. Yogurts doesn't have time. He's not even going for it. And he will pick up the diffuser, but no time left, and the defenders win. This defense, Mockit, putting it into a 3-1 situation. Millenium losing their cool here, and we're inches away from match point and series point.
1 second later for Ravon, and that is easily Millenium's round, and we are all tied up. Score shows 3-1, and that is solely due to the play from that Pulse. That kill from below, not only stopping the defuse plant at the final second, but making the rest of Millenium have to scramble to recover as the Mira of Mockit is able to stay upstairs. That was Voy, and do the work needed to draw their attention. So I suppose a small team effort, but really Ravon stealing the show on that round.
And Ravon stealing the show overall on Border, seemingly his map. He has had a fantastic match so far on Pulse in particular. When he's playing Pulse on defense, you do not mess with Ravon. He clearly knows what's up, and he has been showing up so far in the first 4 rounds. Moving now on to the 5th round, though, and we will have Millenium take their turn on the defense of Armory.
The one thing I do like about both Millenium and Mockit is that they're having operators swap roles quite regularly. So Ravon has been a great Pulse on this map. Panix was a great Pulse on the previous map, with Sneaky playing very well on Sophia, now on a more supporter-operated role in that Thatcher. For Millenium, you've got Liven currently playing the Valkyrie, and Yogurts on Mira, when in fact it was previously Renshiro. So both of these teams showing the diversity and flexibility that they have with capable and confident rosters to make the changes when they need to. And both teams still able to hang, and no real detriment to the team's ability by making those changes. You know, a lot of times you'll see teams make changes based on operators out of desperation. Well, that's not the case with either of them so far. So we've been treated to a pretty fantastic matchup between both of these French teams so far.
I think one of the traits of an individual player trying to get into the pro league, and if you are a player who aspires to compete with these guys, something to keep in mind is teams will look for your ability to be diverse with your operator selection. No team wants to pick up one-trick pony if they're not the best one-trick pony in the world at doing what they do. So I think a lot of the skill for some of these players is their ability to be diverse, again, to play different operators depending on what their team is.
Agreed. If you're an Ashe main, there are dozens of you. I mean, hey.
You'd have to be the best, really.
You'd have to be the best, and especially the other thing with one-trick ponies is there's a ban system coming.
Oh, yeah.
Which will mean that you can be hard countered. If you are known for only playing 1 or 2 operators, beware the fact that your opponents could rip that rug out from underneath you. So A minute and a half expired on round number 5. Still a lot of drone work being done to assess a push that looks like it will be coming from Office, but Rise, who's had a great game for Millenium, just obliterates enemy, and that is the Thermite. No more hard destruction whatsoever on Mockit. That is not ideal. And Rise, though, eventually will get punished himself from Panics, but that is a great trade. And the Glass of Void also means that smokes are gone too. So you saw one smoke had been thrown out just by Beepers. Sneaky is pushing up towards the Beepers, but he'll peel off.
Sneaky trying to get control over CCTV now. And it makes a lot of sense because Mockit are probably going to have to adjust their strategy now that they don't have any hard destruction. You could see a little bit of a graphical error, not sure what's going on with that, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the play whatsoever. Panic's going to be moving his way into Fountain looking for that control. The mirror window's still up, but there's nobody on it, so he's not going to worry too much about it as his teammates have called that out. Narrowly missing a shot there. Yogurts will go down to Panics on an extremely tight angle. That's that ACOG shining through, and Panics' gunplay as well. Tick still in the sight though with his shotgun, will dispatch Sneaky. Can he get a second? No. Rise will finally Panics will finally shut him down, but Renshiro, 2 for himself, 3 in the round. And Millenium will win the defense of Armory, struggling to claw themselves back into this match, 2-3.
So both teams now with 2 consecutive Armory rounds in a row means that we will likely see potentially workshop ventilations or customs, depending on where they go. Right now, Mockit looking like ventilation and workshop will be the go-to. And we'll see if they go with yet another one of those, that interesting play that they had that was being anchored by the dock at the bottom of the main stairs, watching that long angle down towards the east lobby. But at least with their composition, they're going to go with a pretty roam-heavy comp.
Oh.
And at the last second, that Jaeger being changed for a castle.
I mean, it makes sense.
You're defending ventilation and workshop, folks. You got to be running that castle about 50 to 60, 70% of the time on this site.
Depending on the attack strategy from Millenium, it could be very beneficial as well to have a Jaeger. For example, if you're going to see a pushing through the front door, then you want a Jaeger, because what's going to happen there is you're going to have layers of smokes upon smokes upon smokes. But here, Millenium, I believe they rotated out a Ying, and now they have instead opted to bring a no-smoke lineup at all. So that's not going to be an option for them. Not having a Jaeger here will not hurt Mockit, and it's going to come down to the raw gunplay, the positional play from both teams. So it doesn't look like Mockit are going to be doing that mirror window setup that we saw in stock. Might have been just a one-off thing, and they in fact aren't even playing Sneaky on a dock anymore. He's been rotated over to a bandit. And I like the fact that they only used the mirror window once. It worked the one time. It wasn't super influential, but it worked. And as soon as Millenium is aware of it, like they would be now, they will be they wouldn't be hard pressed to counter it. I mean, it's pretty easy to open up the window behind the mirror window, or just come from what some people call box, or others. What would you call it, Parker?
The box is it's called detention, but a lot of people call it jail. So I mean, it's
jail,
just,
yeah.
Jail is just, you'll find that a lot, and this is something that we're going to get some 100% consistency on, is that a lot of the calls at the bottom of your screen that you can see just by the compass are not applicable in Pro League or in when you need to get words out quickly. Are you going to say detention, or are you going to say jail?
Yeah.
So
it's the same thing for like some really particular calls. So like you've got sandwich instead of armory. That's just called lockers, generally speaking. I mean, but lockers is to the right of sandwich. You know, there's so many little intricate calls that aren't displayed in the game that you have to keep in mind. And we're something, again, like you said, we're going to try and get more consistent on.
Yeah, because and every region has different calls as well. So for example, you've got half wall, you've got small wall right there. There's a couple. I'm trying to think of what else.
Bunker.
I think they call it bunker. Yeah. So and it depends on the region. So quarreling over the calls aside, the UMP of Panics will find its intended target, and that's Renshiro. The Zofia will fall. A Zofia is not integral to a push by any stretch of the imagination. However, lots of disruption and destruction available from that lifeline.
Yeah, and somewhat also important is that they lost the lifeline before they could even deal with the top floor. You can see that Mockit have been very successful at stalling Millenium by just holding inside of Archives. This is a bottom floor defense, and we're only a minute left in this round. Millenium haven't been able to make the push happen. Here we go, though. They will start things off with a kill onto Panics. That's the castle playing in Archives, finally eliminated. Sneaky, oh so close to a potential kill, and the perfect moment, Liven goes down. Nice headshot there from Sneaky, and the thermite charges going off to open up this site downstairs. The top floor is still a point of contention for Millenium.
So they've done the job that they need to do, but they're not exactly using their time to the best of their ability, and they're still allowing Mockit to run rough sod over top of them. Yogurts is frozen in place in Fountain. You saw that there were two members looking towards him, and it's Voy on the stairs who will get that kill, leaving Hicks all alone. But he's in sight with the diffuser, so could potentially go for a plant, but looks completely lost as Enemy ends his suffering, and Mockit will now move to match point on border and are 1 round away from closing this out and going up against 1UP in the playoffs next week.
It's going to be an amazing match no matter which team makes it forward to 1UP. That's for sure. Playoffs always so very interesting. So, Ventilation Room Workshop going to be the last stand here for Millenium. The question is, can they make it into more? All they're going to need to do is successfully hold that site, but don't believe that they've actually gone to Ventilation yet. They have in fact gone to Armory, Customs, and then Armory, and this is going to be their first time going to the Ventilation site, so we don't have much to work on here. This is something new entirely. It's very likely they're going to have a similar setup to what we've seen from Mock-Up in the past, or Mockit, excuse me, as that has been working out pretty well for Mockit defending Ventilation. So likely a lot of pressure going to be on the top floor here for both teams.
It's really going to be do or die as well. So a site that can see some mirror usage, you can see a certain flexibility, but like I said, a castle is almost always a must on this site for teams that have good strategies. Here's a couple reasons why. Number one, castle can do two things. He can either contract the size of the site itself, or he can expand it. Usually, you're using a castle barricade to expand the size of the site and slow the attackers down. The reason why castle barricades obviously slow them down is because more often than not, you have to use your utility or your gadgets to get to the site in ways that you usually would not need to.
Yeah, the really interesting thing is we're seeing Castle played a whole lot more than he used to be, and it's due to so many influences, just too many to really list off. But some of the major ones, of course, are Lion and the aggression that provides for the attack, the less play of Ashe, of course, which is questionable because of the more play of IQ with the grenades, the more play of Zofia with the similar Ashe utility, but at the same time, these are the little things that contribute, that pile up to make it so Castle is more played in the Pro League right now. I mean, he's an operator that I think by most people's standards, especially at any level besides Pro League level, or even Challenge League level, at any level besides Comp, he is considered to be a less than viable operator, but that's just not the case. He is so very influential, and we've seen that highlighted in most recent times in this season.
The other thing with Castle, too, is that if you want to buff Castle, the best way of doing it is making more sites viable for Castle barricades. There's a lot of sites in this game where a Castle just really doesn't make much sense. You don't see that much usage out of him. EE1D will be called in from the attackers. Millenium will have about 90 seconds. They can determine if they can hang with Mockit or if their season will be all but over. Of course, there will be a seeding match for these teams, no matter who the victor and who the loser is. Mockit still doing some drone work from above, waiting to see where the position is for the defense. Right now, it doesn't appear that a single member of Millenium is up top. They've all consolidated around that site. We've got a couple on the western side of Customs, it does appear. Now one castle barricade by the east doorway will get blown apart, and Panics there cannot land all of the shots as one of those concussive mines will be detonated proximity-based in midair. That was onto the castle. Rise inside the bathroom, just waiting to see if there's going to be a push. He can see the trail of that concussive mine and can get aggressive. Rise has had a very steady shot so far today.
So, Mockit pushing their way into the B-bomb site. Yager's going to shut that down swiftly. Ravon goes down, and on the main staircase, the Thatcher gets lit up, but Voy will finally get that Legion. Hicks, though, as enemy pushes into the sites, will get him, and it's Mockit starting to fall apart on this attack. On the main stairs, Panics with very little HP has to deal with 2 defenders on his flank, and he just cannot catch Liven in time. Who gets a double kill as Thatcher goes down, leaving Voy in a 1 versus 2. Liven goes down, but only 11 seconds. Pistol out, Voy can't hack it, and Rise will shut him down.
Would have had to be an ace there for the Glaz if he wanted to hang on to that round. Millenium just completely shutting out Mockit, and as you said, just can't hack it. Millenium, that's the kind of defense that Millenium is going to need to have if they get a chance to go back to defense. We're still on match point, but if Mockit is unable to close this, then we will head to overtime. I think that was your prediction, thinking that we would go all the way, and we'll see. Now, Armory Lockers, the last time that we saw Mockit go here, they probably should have lost. It was all on the shoulders of Revan to get that ever-crucial C4 kill through the floor to stop the defuse plant by the doorway outside on the balcony of Archives. Now, Mockit obviously cannot rely on a play like that to work again, or else, if potentially more utilities expended or more time expended to catch Revan, then Mockit will find themselves listless upstairs with no final second ace in the hole. So Mockit will need to do better in defending that push into offices, and especially Fountain, because it was Millenium who was literally able to bulldoze their way in last time around, and Mockit tried to peel off before getting caught out by Millenium.
Yeah, but even if you bulldoze your way in, you still have to be able to deal with, as you said, those roamers downstairs. And they partially did. I mean, they got Panics over by Telch, but he managed to trade himself out, and then there was the follow-up from Ravon shutting down that roam clear. So there definitely needs to be a heavier investment from Millennium, but we'll see if they can manage to make it work for them. See, Ranchero going to be opening up that CCTV doorway. Now, CCTV and the A bomb site in general has been not at all attacked, I want to say, throughout this entire match. Armory has been just a huge focus onto the B side over by Archives for both teams. And it doesn't look like we're going to see that shift just yet, but always an option either team could utilize. Mockit.
I'm a little surprised why Armory has fallen into favor so fast, because there are teams that we saw, especially in scrims, you can hear that we're using a Lion Ying strat where they would just open up that Armory wall and just freeze everybody in place, smoke it off, have somebody push in, and then get a very quick plan. That's not something that has really worked at this level. I'm not certain if it's just something that appeared in a couple scrims and they determined that it wasn't as viable as a simple Archives push.
Really knows, maybe these teams just want to go with something they're more familiar with. Maybe they're just trying to play the counterintelligence game. Who really knows? But with a match this close, you'd be pulling out all the stops, that's for sure. Now, EE1D is going to pop off, and that's going to force the red light, but it didn't actually see any capitalization. No one on the attack pushing into anywhere significant. Office control well in hand, but there's nobody on Mockit's side in a position to deny office control, as they're relying very heavily on those roamers downstairs. In fact, they've invested more into the roamers downstairs, bringing 3 defenders to the bottom floor. Liven going to give away his position by opening up those doors in Passport, and meanwhile, the rest of Millennium just struggling to get into Fountain and possibly open up that B bomb site wall. Again, no holds at all here for the defense because of this right here. Ravon from below. This is going to be the linchpin for the defense.
Hicks did have a drone that looked like it was trying to push towards the pulse. And there we go. Hicks will try to determine where the pulse is located. Finds him, scans him, and there is Liven waiting to encroach upon him. But what a shot, Revan, as Liven doesn't have much of a chance. A C4 goes down in an act of desperation. Ravon cannot get the kill. Hicks can, and even though detected by an EE1D, Voy will somehow manage to still live, but has lost control of Bathroom. Take a look at the clock above, though. So much of Millennium will need to focus on the site as Rise takes out Voy. Now Panics downstairs too. Mockit will only have 2 on site, Sneaky and Enemy. As another EE1D goes off, an Enemy will be fallen. It's all up to Sneaky. There will be no smoke. So, a Jaeger and a Bandit as your duo left. Can they stop the defuse as it's going off? No, they can't. They get a couple shots in, but not in time. Millennium will hold on, and overtime awaits us between these two teams because, of course, overtime is needed with how evenly matched both the French teams are.
So that round, Mockit too much investment downstairs, and Millennium countering it with a punch of their own, really hammering away at Ravon downstairs, trying to establish that they can plant in the site. And that's all it really comes down to. Once they figured out that, yes, okay, the pulse is dealt with, they waltzed into the site, got that diffuse plant, and there were no anchors to speak of because of Mockit investing so heavily in the pulse. A little bit of a misplay there from Mockit and a good read from Millenium, and that's all it takes to get it to 4-4. Armory defense is going to be up next, as we have seen quite a lot of Armory throughout this match. I think we've only seen 3 rounds, I believe, where we haven't gone to Armory. So definitely seeing the most play of all of the sites on this map, as is per usual with Border.
So we are 2 to 3 rounds away on a map that, honestly, I think we had some suspicions that this might have been a very quick affair given the way the bank turned out, but that could have just been an anomaly. So I said about an hour and a half ago that is a bank a sign of things to come, or was it an anomaly? Was it just simply that Mockit was more prepared? Was Millenium not exactly ready or as warmed up as they could be? We don't really know the answer to why, but it certainly shows that it's a map that Mockit is favored on, as Kafe went to the 11th round, and we will have at minimum 10 rounds now on Border. So quite even strokes between both of these teams. I imagine we will see something very similar between Digital Chaos and Vitality on their rematch coming up just at the conclusion of this match. So at least we are being treated to a spectacular finale of the regular season for EU. For Millenium, the whole team has woken up now, and I think there's been a certain tightness that's happened in the rest of their team. Especially on Border, it's been a joint effort being led by Rise, who's had as good of a game as Renshiro had on Kafe.
And if it weren't for Rise right now, this could be a completely different story. Remember that Mockit was in a 4-2 situation in their favor just a few rounds prior, and Millenium have managed to bring it back. Panic's choosing not to use his nade there. Very questionable decision, and he is in fact going to be lit up from above. What is going on with the IQ? Losing so much HP for nothing, and then also not using the nade, that's going to cost the attack 1 thermite charge because of great bandit tricking from Renshiro.
And then, of course, Renshiro moved to watch that one open hallway into the main door down below as well, and almost got a kill, so doing double duty for his team. Now the bandit will get a trick off, but oh, he can't get it, an enemy blows him apart!
Attackers have located a bomb.
Renshiro is
overzealous.
no more, a bit overzealous, and just timed it poorly amidst the smoke. Likely would have died to Voy as the glass was pushing in as well. So you've lost the bandit, and on top of that, you've also lost that armory wall. We could see our very first armory take. As you had commented on, we really haven't seen a push from that side of the site at all.
Now, this is really important. The IQ of Panix is downstairs. All the pressure's on him now to hit that nade, and he will. Yogurts goes down. That's the mirror window disabled, but do they know it? There's no point notifiers in Pro League. That's just another reminder for you guys. And yeah, it seems like Yogurts is actually going to get picked up, but Voy from the window gets Hicks. Millenium now losing many bodies in the hallway. Liven will get Panics, but Sneaky responds onto Yogurts. And this is a push in straight for the site. Stand still for Rise, but he has got the green light, and he gets a double almost, but Liven shuts down Sneaky. Millenium are fighting back. It's not over yet. Ravon, though, peeking onto Bunker, manages to get Rise, and it's all up to Liven, who dropped down through the drop down. No discernible reason. Now he's gonna have to retake with so little time. There's only 6 seconds. The diffuser's been dropped. It's up to these 2 attackers to cover each other while one plants, and there's no! Liven narrowly missing the headshot. Voy will get the kill, and Mockit put it on a match point, series point.
Such a powerful place for the Mute to be inside of what a lot of people call ticket booth. Just by that armory wall, watching the Mira, and an incredible shot from Voy. You have 1 shot, 1 kill, and that's what you need, and Voy landing it to save his teammate and save the round for Mockit. And even though Millenium was down in a 1v2, that looked to be their opportunity to go on a match point.
Defenders, protect your
So
bombs
narrow,
from being used by
so very narrow. A lot of things had to go right there for Mockit for that all to work out. You saw Millenium putting a lot of counter blocks in place, but it just wasn't enough. Panics from below. He didn't hit the nade on the Bandit early in the round, but he did manage to hit the nade. Actually, as it turns out, that was a good thing, since the Bandit died to the Thermite charge, the second one. But he did hit the nade on the Mira, who was playing inside of that small office, or as you say, ticket booth, some people call it. And that nade, while it didn't actually kill the Mira, opened up the opportunity for the initial push, which allowed Mockit to establish a man advantage. Once they had that, they just kept pressuring into Millenium, and it turned into a bit of a meat grinder, but finally Mockit came out on top. And then the re-evaluation from those remaining two Mockit attackers to come over to Armory Wall, work together, and deny that push from Rise. Well done.
So with Mockit running the same strategy, or the same lineup, at least as close as we can get, to the second round where they went to workshops once more, they were successful the last time they tried something like this against Millenium. And for Millenium, you cannot let that history repeat itself. Keep in mind that at Gamers Assembly, it was Millenium getting the best of Mockit, and Mockit said that this was a story of revenge, not only knocking one of the historically superior teams from Europe out of the playoffs race, but also going from relegations, making it into Pro League, and then into the playoffs. To face off against OneUp would be quite an accomplishment.
Haven't managed it yet, but they're getting darn close. Rise is going to start opening up the floor above the bomb site. Well, actually not above the bomb site, rather above the mirror window, which is facing towards the bomb site. Just one of the many ways that you can disable this mirror window. It's now been accomplished by Millenium. We talked about it earlier. Having that mirror window there is great and all if the enemy doesn't know about it, but now that Millennium's conscious of the potential for that mirror window, they're going to hard counter it every round, and you can see them doing it right now. So Mockit now going to have to work on just their own gunplay and a different position to be able to make this come out positively for them. Now they still have control over Armory, which is really important.
They've sent Yogurts in to essentially not just drone himself in, but also try to entry frag. No matter what, he's going to waste a lot of time on this push. He doesn't have the breaching ability to be able to get inside of Armory fast enough. He'll have to do a couple things. Either he'll have to hope for a bullet pen kill, or he'll have to melee down that castle barricade, neither of which are going to be quick and efficient. Though Panics will be caught in a crossfire as Liven pushes in through beepers and also gets the hatch to establish some control above inside of Armory and lockers.
That was a three-way crossfire established onto Panics. Extremely well coordinated from Millenium. They are not losing any bodies on that top floor hold clear. And now, with only 40 seconds, they've got great positioning and man advantage, as well as life advantage, as enemy's been lit up quite a lot to win this. Sneaky trying to contest over an open area. That is Yogurts, who gets very lit up. The Lion just narrowly getting away with his life. And we're getting down to the last 30 seconds.
Enemy could potentially get hit with one of those stim pistols, but right now waiting to hold off on a push in through the main door. It's the Thermite who was there. That is Hicks hitting away at the barricade. Enemy is going to be in a tough spot. Move and you get obliterated. Not much of a chance. Mockit gets two to be answered by two from Millenium, and M fighting will fight back. So Nitro goes out from Revan, but it cannot hit its target. Sneaky takes one down as Renshiro refrags, leaving just Sneaky left. With Hicks holding that diffuser, he will get it off, typing away. But will Sneaky be able to save the day? Waiting to see if Renshiro can catch him, and he can. That is nothing for Mockit. M fight back, and we have, for the second map in a row, we'll need every round for our conclusion.
What a tight match. It's a darn shame that this is going to be the only time for this season that these teams will meet each other. To be honest, neither of them seems to want to be eliminated right now. Both of them want to go into those playoffs, and that is really shining through here. But it all comes down to now this last minute, or 3 minutes and 45 seconds, that we will have the prep phase plus the actual play phase. After that, it'll all be decided. We're so close to the finale for this match, and it seems like it's been a long road, but all of these rounds have been intense, action-packed, and relatively fast compared to some others that we've seen in the Pro League so far this season.
And they'll go back to Armory. So with Mockit getting, or rather with Millenium getting a second chance on defense, they will go back up top. They were not successful here on the very first round on overtime. And I mean, I think you can say a lot of these teams have not been successful on a lot of sites. There's been a healthy amount of diversity, though only Customs has reared its head once. The rest has been a fight between Armory and the Workshop bomb sites. So
We've only seen Vent as well, I think 3 times, I want to say. It's been a site that's been kind of neglected 4 times, correction, but as compared to how much you normally see it, it really hasn't been getting a lot of play. That obviously has a lot to do with the amount of attack wins we've been getting. It's been kind of even, to be fair, but still. So, top of these stairs, obviously, going to be Mockit's first point of ingress, and this is just very common. I think if you've ever watched Border in Siege be played out in the esports setting, then you kind of expect this type of thing. Now, there has been a lot of time used already by Mockit, a whole minute in fact, and that is due to their extensive droning. Now, something that I think Mockit has really been showcasing for us in this match is how thorough they like to be with the droning. There was one exception of that where Panix walked right by the Valkyrie on Kafe. I believe that was Hicks for the second time. But that's one exception. Other than that, Mockit has been extremely thorough with their droning.
not uncommon to see a Valkyrie camera inside of that east lobby, but even less common to see a Valkyrie. There is none on defense, so the IQ of Panix will search for a black eye that does not exist, as right now Mockit is potentially one Walchas C4 away on those east stairs from all being removed from the match. But they have firm control, of course, and there will be no push at the moment from M at all.
So Rise, this is the big roadblock here for Mockit. He saw a 3K last time defending this position, and he's been very, very good at doing it so far. It's going to come down to Mockit being able to coordinatedly push onto him. They've managed to deal with the Jaeger device, that ring neck, as the skin changes the name to. And now they're not going to have to worry about their smokes or flashbangs being caught by that.
One will dive in through the window, and that's Panix. No opportunity as the captain of Mockit falls to Rise, once again playing on that fountain, and he is going to be the one to watch. His legs are exposed for just a second, but Voy cannot connect those shots. He'll get downed, and Rise will get pressured from the Thermite. Hicks jumps in to help his team, and he'll take out Voy, who had been downed earlier by Rise. So a kill that should have gone to the Jaeger will be sniped away by his teammate. It doesn't matter, though, because we hit the final 30 seconds of the final round between these two French teams. Revan trying to outduel Renshiro, but he can't. He'll be given away. It's Enemy and Sneaky left, and Mockit's fortunes are falling apart as M has fought back valiantly. They have all 5 of their members up. Make that 4. As one goes down to Enemy, he tries for a second, a double kill from Mockit, a triple kill, and it's only Enemy left. Can he manage to clutch this? He looks the wrong way. Renshiro, the final kill, and enough fighting for M to send themselves to the playoffs. Mockit's season is done, all but for a seeding match, and it's all over but the crying. Millenium once again eking out a victory in spectacular last-minute fashion.
And why, oh why, did they manage to get that victory? Well, I'll tell you, it was Rise. Nothing but Rise on that last round. Renshiro alive, and you could see 10 kills of their own, but Rise really the star of the show at denying that push in towards Fountain. That's all she wrote. If you can't get your way into Fountain, then there's